When you are starting a business, you gotta be kind of unhinged. And today on this podcast, I wanna talk about how do we move fast, but make sure that we give ourselves enough time. And then two, I wanna nail the number one thing that most people get wrong when they're building a business. I think most people actually kill their business by caring too much about what other people think. Hi, and welcome back to the Big Deal podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez, and today we're gonna learn some things that you will never learn in business school, but you need to know if you wanna make a lot of money. And I wanna start out with this line from Warren Buffett, like one of the best investors and business builders of all time. He says, you can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant. And this applies to almost every part of investing and building. Most people, though, don't realize it. So they want, six-pack after 1 month at the gym. And I get it, speed is essential, but you gotta have time. You need a long enough runway for the really interesting stuff to happen. So first, let's talk about runway and thinking about reasonableness when it comes to making money. So if you look at my resume, by the way, if you see me on social media, you might be like, she's always had a lot of money. She's always built businesses. But that's not actually how it was. In the beginning, it started out, I was a Walmart model. Shocking, not a runway model. I was a reporter in Latin America. I was on Wall Street. I did private equity. I owned laundromats. Now I'm a YouTuber. I'm a fund manager. When you zoom out, there's a common thread of ownership and actually investing throughout all of this. Even though it looks completely disjointed, that thread actually becomes a moat. My point here isn't for me to tell you my entire background. The point here is to say it's gonna take a minute, so set that expectation. But here is how to make it go way faster. When you are starting a business, you gotta be kind of unhinged. So let me tell you just a few of the absolutely unhinged things I did to grow my business, and hopefully you can steal some of these ideas. So to start, I didn't have a 5-year plan. I didn't have a 5-month plan. I didn't have a business plan. So one of the first things we did, we actually printed out these, there's about 5,000 stickers. I think I spent maybe $1,000 on that. And then I went to a newsletter conference that I was not invited to because this business, Contrarian Thinking, started as a newsletter. We covered the walls, bathrooms, hallway mirrors. We spent about $10,000 on hats because my plan was to put those everywhere. Small problem, it was a stolen logo because I did it on Fiverr, so that didn't work out great. I still have those hats to this day. Actually, throw me that pink one over there, will you? Don't sue me. I think this company is called Brain Dead or something like that. I ended up giving away those hats to a bunch of people in order to get newsletter subscribers. It worked out. We also taped Contrarian Thinking logos to every wall in my house. So in every Zoom meeting, it was behind me, even though it was just me, a ring light, my dog. These billboards are kind of cool. So I did a little tradesies to get billboards that said short stocks by laundromats. And I put them all over Miami. Some of this stuff is not that scalable, right? But it worked because it was cheap and it was free, so if it was free, it was me. You can afford to look a little crazy right now. It is okay in the beginning for you to do crazy things to get started. Gates said, if everything you do needs to work on a 3-year time horizon, you're competing against a lot of people. But if you're willing to invest on a 7-year time horizon, you're competing against a fraction. So have long-term plans, but allow yourself to be scrappy in the beginning, because I think most people actually kill their business by caring too much about what other people think. By the way, nobody ahead of you is going to care. When you're young and dumb, you can be young and dumb. A perfect example of this is a company called Cluely, for example, that they did this video, which is the most ludicrous video I've ever seen, and now it is all over Twitter.
Profile says you worked at Bananazon?
Yeah, I've been there for the past 8 years doing senior software engineering, so coding.
Really?
I know I look a little young for my age, but I promise you, I'm 30 years old.
Okay, well, maybe you are just way older than you look.
This video got them more than 10 million impressions, and now everybody knows the name of them and their founder. And it was pretty cheap to produce. The problem is the Sam Altmans of the world, well, they would never be able to do this because it would make them look really silly. So when you're young and dumb, use that to your advantage. If you don't do crazy things, how can you expect to have crazy success? And maybe tell me in the comments, what are some of the craziest things you've done to build your company? What are the craziest things you're thinking? I'll tell you if it's a terrible idea or not. And also tell me, where did you try something and it totally failed? Maybe I can tell you why that didn't work. Okay, next. Now we need to talk about how do you 10x your company. So you've gotten it off the ground. You got this little baby, the baby's moving because you're doing crazy things. But now how do we get this company really motoring? How do we get you to have the life in the company that you want? Well, hiring is the only thing a founder does that is truly important. And there's many founders that say that. Sam Altman, who created OpenAI, Elon Musk has like a beautiful quote where he talks about the fact that the best people out there are not worth 2x others, they're worth 10x. And sometimes they're worth 1,000x. And so everything you do should be to find your top performers. In fact, there's like an amazing story actually about Steve Jobs. He used to work at a company called Atari. So he didn't really like to shower. He refused to wear shoes, so he had like smelly feet out everywhere. And he wanted to sleep at the office. And the founder at the time was getting all this heat from the other employees telling him like, no way. Can I work in a place where that guy is such a grosso? And what's funny is the founder knew that Steve was so good that he was worth 1,000 other engineers. So what did he do? He let that motherfucker sleep at the office. He let him not shower very often because he was that good. And if you go through the biggest business billionaires of all time and see their common thread, they all have a story like this. In fact, like one of my favorite investors who runs a company called Renaissance, and he said that the best engineer they had, the best performer that they had, used to type with his toes during the day, which is like, can you even imagine such a thing? Why would they let somebody do that? Because your top performers will make your life so much easier. I have talked to hundreds of founders about their biggest mistake, and it is not a how, but a who. They chose the wrong business partner. I've done this twice, by the way. I chose the wrong business partner and entered business hell. And at one point, I had to pay $1 million plus to get that business partner out of my life. So the question is, how do you find the right people, not more people? The thing about high performers, they look the same every single time. And a high performer typically hits the top 5. So that's a known performer, meaning like you already know the guy. You're like, oh yeah, that guy was on my team. He's amazing. I already know he's a high performer. They have already done the job, which basically means that you want to hire somebody who's an engineer who has already been an engineer before. You don't want to have untested talent. They have worked at a company that is just like yours. So if you're a media company, they've worked at a media company before. They actually have worked on your problem set before. So say you're a fast-growing startup and the issue is like you can't handle all the inbound you have. You don't want somebody that's only worked at Dell where they just kind of like business as usual, even if they were an engineer at the same type of company that you have. And then finally, you want them to work in a company your same problem size. If you are a startup, you want somebody that's been in a startup before. Really hard to bring somebody down from Google to startup land again and say, hey, you got to be an employee here with none of the resources. So that's what we call cheetah versus house cat matrix. Why? Because we think that cheetahs and house cats, they're both cats. One of them has stripes, one of them has spots, but what's the real difference? You only want one if you're taking down really big deals, right? The cheetah moves faster, the cheetah's got real teeth, and I think a lot of times we end up hiring people or bringing people into our mix because they're a cat. They're just like they're a house cat. They just want to hang around, they want to eat a bunch of your food, and they want to not do much, sip some milk. Like, we're not interested. We want hunters here. So, how do you find these people in the wild? Well, when I ran a finance business in Latin America, I realized a couple things. Our top reps weren't a little better, they were 10x better. And even in like a really small market, which would be like Venezuela or Uruguay versus Mexico and Brazil. And so we gave the best people the best markets. And all of a sudden they were 20x better. So I was like, okay, if I realize that all the things are true about top talent being high performers, then do I just go put my resumes on a job board? No. We've got to actually go out and find them, or what we call the 4 C's to top level talent. So let's break it down. First, curate. So you actually have to start hiring before you start hiring. So let me give you an example. I have this employee that works for me, Jacob. He's one of our writers. And I read his work for a year. And I sent him a DM way before I needed a writer. And what was wild is like this DM kind of went like this. It was like, hey, I loved that line you wrote in the newsletter, XYZ. This is amazing. Really cool. And his response was like, oh, yeah, that's so great. Thanks, I really appreciate it. Then we developed a relationship. That lasted for a year. And I just stayed in touch with him until I actually needed him. This is the long game. For you dudes out there, this is how you hire people. It's also how you get chicks, at least good ones, is you take a long amount of time to make sure that you treat these potential hires like talent. You are slowly but surely going after them. And so a couple ways you could do that really tactically. One, bookmark stuff that makes you say, damn, I wish I wrote, built, sold that, did that. And then follow up with those people. Ping them on LinkedIn and Twitter and just say, hey, this is really cool. What do you do? Tell me about you. Keep a little Excel spreadsheet, that's what I do, of top talent and just like check in with them every so often. So that's curate. The second is cultivate. So in this case, with Jacob, for instance, I was like complimenting their stuff. I was asking smart questions. I was sending them ideas. Then I might hire them for a 1-hour consult, like nothing crazy. I'm not trying to get them in completely. I get to test before I buy. So another example of this is a guy I have here, Brad. Brad helped as an interim leader and our head of content because I had been in touch with Brad for years. 2 years ago, I told him, if you're ever on the move and leave your company, let me know. He wasn't ready then, but when he left his last role, I pounced. He was like, I'm ready to do consulting. I'm happy to come in and build your team. So he helped me for basically 4 months hiring and finding the best talent out there. So you're gonna start following up with people continuously over time. 3, close. When it's time to go hard. There's nothing worse than, like Matthew McConaughey says, if you're gonna do it, don't half-ass it, go all the way. So fly them in, meet their spouse, pay more than you're comfortable with. I wasn't even looking for a company president when I met Mark. This is my new president. I wanted a CRO. I didn't want to pay the cost of having a president. But after one conversation, I was like, this is our guy. So I was like, I'll move your family out. I'll change the org. Let's go. You don't wait for top talent to fit your role. When you find top talent, you bring them in. And I actually obsess on this at our scaling workshops in SMB Boardroom, where we teach you guys how to find the best talent, how to close the best talent, and how to make sure that talent makes you money and stays. So if that's something interesting for you guys, you should click the link below to come to SMB Boardroom. This is only for people who already have a business and you guys want to grow it. Okay, step 4, continue. Top performers, they will not stay forever, and that's okay. But when they leave, don't be a dick. Keep them close. You know, I talk shop with people who left before, like Joe, who used to head content for me. We stay in touch. Why? Because they're gonna be your next referral source. They're gonna send you talent better than any recruiter. So Joe, for instance, he now runs his own 7-figure business. We still trade notes. And even though he left, I'm super proud of him. I'm proud of him for becoming an owner. So like, shout out Joe, but he also helps me all the time. He's like, check out this guy, you should hire him. Hey, I'm using this guy, do you want them? And the reason why is because it is so rare. How many of you guys have had a boss that when you left, you're like, I would light this fucking place on fire. Like if I could light it on fire, I'd be thrilled. I can't wait for this person to fail. That's not what you want to do. When you bring top talent in, you want to treat them like the way that you thought they were when they came on board. Because like Steve Jobs says, a small team of A+ players can run circles around a giant team of B and C players. So if you want a business that doesn't feel like a colonoscopy every single day to go into it, you gotta hire people who are better than you. Our last segment though is, culture starts at the top, which means that if your team isn't acting the way you want them to, it's probably you. I think that culture doesn't drip down, it radiates out. It's like a cold. It spreads person to person, desk to desk. It's the people sitting 3 seats over. It's the one employee's text, like when everything goes sideways, how does your team react? And you all know, there's like probably somebody in your business, in your team, who like sets the tempo. You're like, that person is a cancer and I wish they weren't here, and they're dragging the whole team down. Or alternatively, they're what we call your Bobby. They're the person who drives everybody forward. So like my Bobby runs BizScout. It's our platform for buying and selling small businesses. And usually the best the best A players are like Swiss Army knives. He basically can do anything, as evidenced by the fact that he goes and like beats people up for his side hobby. But when we interviewed Bobby, I thought I was vetting him, but it actually wasn't like that. He was vetting me. He was like, this is how you know if you got a high performer, by the way. He goes, how big do you think this company is gonna get? Why? What's your 10-year vision for the company? And like, why not this, why not that? What's the worst thing someone who's partnered with you would say about you? And when was the last time you fired someone for underperformance? Why? What will you do if this company runs out of cash? He even asked about our summer plans. Basically, he's like, do you guys work or am I just gonna have to do the work? So the point is, finding somebody like Bobby, cheat code for a business, and you know it's a Bobby because they vet you too. And when this person comes that starts vetting you right back because they have, you know, just as many options as you do, I want you to start doing what I'm doing, which is highlight the Bobby. Every time they do something good and you see the difference, start to say it. In your meetings every single week, we have like a Get Shit Done award winner of the week. that should be highlighting the person who is actually moving the needle. When that happens, then it becomes the norm. Everybody does it. And it's how BizScout managed to go from a napkin sketch to 56,000 listings and 21,000 buyer broker connections. So Builder's biggest competitive advantage isn't AI. It is actually your humans. So go find your Bobby, realize you got a long runway, and make sure that you know how to spot a Bobby when you see one.
Crew, this is so cool. The podcast is growing like crazy, and it's only actually because of one thing, you. I don't know if you know this, but the only way the Big Deal Pod grows is when you share it with somebody else. We don't do ads. We don't do pay for play. We don't go on other people's podcasts and talk about it. So if you think there was something helpful here, if we made you money, we made you think about your business or life differently, the most beautiful thing you can do for me is share it. And the most beautiful thing you can do for someone that you care about is to share it with them, help them grow alongside you. So please share the pod. That's how we grow. And also tag me on anything you share. I love resharing other builders across Instagram, Twitter, and all other platforms. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're super important to me.
Finding love is hard. There is nothing easy about finding the person you're going to share a room with for the rest of your life.
The most important deal you'll ever do is the partner you choose. Marriage done well is a superpower. That's why today I bring you Matthew Hussey, arguably the world's foremost dating coach.
There's an arrogance among a lot of entrepreneurs that they think if you're not on board and you don't support me, and it's like, no, being with an entrepreneur is a nightmare.
Do you have frameworks or tactics you use?
But I have these things I call emotional buttons. When we feel an emotion, and it's a good emotion, and we want to feel it again, it's really, really important to just...
If you're young and you're having a hard time finding somebody, does it help if you're like, maybe I should try dating across the aisle?
Ask yourself, what was missing last time around? That because that thing was missing, I was miserable. You have to have a strong enough reason to believe that the game is worth it.
For the last 20 years, he's advised everyone from regular folks to royalty, literally. And his clients include people like Eva Longoria and Tyra Banks. He's written bestsellers, gone viral on every platform you can name, and also built one of the most loyal female audiences on the internet, helping people find maybe the most important thing in the world, love, and keeping it. So without further ado, let's bring on Matthew Hussey to talk about how do we find love, how do we keep it, how do we date, and how do we not just get married but stay married happily. So for my single friends, I keep hearing that it's harder than ever out there, that they can't find someone, even if they were married before, they're divorced, they're trying to figure it out. You've been doing this for 18 years, talking to people about dating and psychology and marriage and partnership. Is it harder now today than any other time? And what's different now?
I think in some ways it is harder now. I think there's more and more news stories now about what's happening for men and women. Yeah. Not that I want to plunge headfirst into those political debates, but it's become, I think, hard to ignore that there is something going on that is making life difficult at all different age groups. Yeah. You have people who are out there who are really looking for commitment. You have women looking for commitment, and we're living in a world where I don't know the stats off by heart, but women are making more money, men are struggling, a lot of men, not all men, but a lot of men. Women are more educated, a lot less men by comparison are graduating. So there seems to be something going on there in terms of, women whose standards have gone up, men who are struggling to keep pace. Yep. How does that then show up in dating in terms of, are women happy with who they're meeting? Are men happy with who they're meeting, or the ways that they're feeling necessary, or in any way, are they struggling with where they are? Are they struggling with their confidence? I think there's just an awful lot going on in terms of men feeling sidelined and men not feeling like they match up to some ideal. That's going on the women's side too. Women feel like they're not matching up to an ideal. I think that social media has created an ideal that's so hard for any of us to live up to. It's created a completely fake image of what success is, of what a good-looking person is. Like, you can't even trust what Santorini looks like anymore.
That's so true.
You know what I mean? How could you not be disappointed these days going to Santorini? It's been perfected on Instagram. So, you know, what has happened to holiday destinations has happened to our faces, has happened to people, has happened to lifestyles. So there's a kind of impossible standard that I think a lot of people are looking for. And like I said, you know, we can get into it, but I think it affects people differently depending on the age they are.
Interesting.
Whether they're in their 20s, and you're now finding, you know, I saw a news piece the other day that Gen Z women are having an easier time, some of them dating millennial men, because some of their political beliefs are more aligned than they are with men their own age, because we're living in this really strange time where, you know, it used to be the case that young people were the most liberal, and now, especially among men, they trend more conservative. So you've now got a lot of very liberal women finding a lot of men their age have very different views than them on life, and they're finding that older men have more things in common in terms of their views than men their own age. Again, these are generalizations, but there's something really fascinating about that. Then you've got people coming out of marriages in their 50s saying, you know, especially if they're a woman, I'm dating guys who are expecting, you know, very old ways of being, and I have to show up, you know, very grateful and very submissive to a relationship and having no needs. Meanwhile, they're not offering an awful lot. Many of them don't want to commit again. They don't want to get married again. They don't want to be back in a situation where they're being told what to do or where they're having to answer to anybody. So there's just so many mismatches across the board right now. And there is a bit of a sense of it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it does feel like that. You know, it's interesting because you coach, you know, through your business, which we'll talk about, Matthew AI, and then also all the events and everything that you do. You coach and talk to thousands and thousands of people about dating, and millions of people across social media. Do you find, are people happier when they date somebody or marry somebody that has the same political view as them, or no?
I think it removes a variable. You know, I think it takes something off the table that becomes a deep source of antagonism in a relationship. I mean, it's not ideal with people who are, you know, you've got one person in the relationship who has one stance on abortion and the other side has a completely different stance. That's really tricky because you know, we're not talking two people in a relationship who are like, one of them thinks we should pay a bit more in tax and the other one doesn't, right. Which kind of, you know, those situations are a little easier because it's just like, you know, you believe in higher taxes and I don't. When it comes to those more deep-seated issues, it's very hard for people. And also, you know, we live in a world I'd be the last person to make the point that we're so divided. And so it's much more now, I think, you know, people have said, if you hear one person's belief now, you kind of tend to know everything they believe.
Yep.
Because of whatever echo chamber they're in. And so I think you have two people meeting where it's not just like there are nuances they have different, like they agree for the most part over here, but then there's just some areas where they just don't quite align. Usually it's like, no, you believe all of these different things and I believe all of these different things. And that's a hard relationship to have unless you've got two extremely compassionate, curious, and empathetic people who are trying to understand each other, but that doesn't exactly portray the landscape right now, does it?
No, it almost feels like people want to lead first with ideology. It's like, I am my ideology, as opposed to I want to be with another human. Yeah. You know, when I was younger, I don't think I really cared or anybody knew so much what political aisle somebody else was on. It wasn't a topic of conversation we talked about consistently. And I wouldn't have said, I would never date Matthew because he's X and I'm Y. I'd be like, he seems super interesting. Oh, he has that political view? Whatever. Kind of doesn't matter. Yeah. If you're young and you're having a hard time finding somebody, do you think, like, does it help if you're like, man, maybe I should try dating across the aisle? Or are you like, no, it's actually a bad idea because now you just have all this friction later because we're so closely tied to our ideologies?
I think that we should try and be on the lookout for the values that seem to transcend what people think.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was Christopher Hitchens once said, it's more important how someone thinks than what they think.
I love Hitchens.
Yeah.
Letters to a Young Contrarian.
I'm sad.
Such a classic.
It's a great, great, great book. And I'm sad that we don't get to hear his opinions on everything today.
Yeah, me too. Could
It
you
always feels like one of the
imagine?
great losses of our lives now, that we don't get to hear him weigh in on things.
Yeah.
He's a voice I miss tremendously.
He'd be a good person for young people to listen to too, because he was like a socialist and a communist and then a capitalist and then an atheist.
Who would
and then
he have been
believed
in
God?
20 years if he'd lived another
Oh,
20
well,
years?
he would have gone all backwards again.
Yeah,
Probably
I don't
right.
know. It'd be fascinating to hear. And so, but you know, I always admired that idea of, how you think, not what you think. And, you know, me and my wife, Audrey, did not start with all the same beliefs about everything.
You didn't lay your voting card on the table. You met her.
No.
Say, can you walk me through each decision, please?
But it was, what was clear early on was that we did have some different stances on things. And the more we were in each other's worlds, I think we've really affected each other. You know, both of us have changed. And that to me there's something very, very beautiful about that. So if I had written her off because she believes different things than me, and she'd written me off for the same reason, we might have been missing something more important, which is that actually at our core, Audrey and I are both intensely curious people. And I'm more interested in truth than I am in being right. So that, which by the way, is always, this is a very besides the point to make, but I always think it's an important point for people to hear, is that saves you actually from fear of embarrassment. And, you know, in an interview like this, right, or a conversation like this, it would be very scary to go in thinking that the goal is to be right.
Yeah.
Because then if I misstep and say something that I turn out to be wrong about, it's a really hard thing for my ego to try and reverse out of that. But if I instead say, I just care about finding what's true, then I can change my position on anything at any time. And there's something very powerful about that. And I think that if you can bring that to a relationship, then you have a relationship between two people where they're both constantly evolving. There's a certain magic to that you are prepared to change your mind about things. And I'm prepared to change my mind about things. And because we know that about each other, we're not keeping a scorecard of who's right and who's wrong. Instead, there's something very disarming when you see someone else that you're with in a relationship say, you've made me think differently about that. Because it lowers your guard. When you hear someone say that, you then think, why am I being so stiff about my opinions? If they're willing to do that, maybe there's some areas that I need to concede on or I need to think about. And Audrey was always so good at that. She would one of the loveliest compliments she would give me, and in turn I've given her, is, because of you, I've changed my mind on that, or because of you, I actually think a little differently about that. And I really credit you with helping me understand more about that, or seeing that a different way. It's such a gorgeous compliment to receive from someone. And I know that getting that compliment from her has made me, it's actually disarmed me in a lot of ways. And seeing that she has the humility to shift ideas has bred more of that humility in me in a relationship where I can think of times in the past where I've been very defensive and digging my heels in on a position and very competitive about who's winning the argument. And, you know, we just don't have that in our relationship, which is lovely. And that's why I say that's deeper than what we thought was like this layer. How we thought was a much deeper layer. And because of how we thought, that we had an intense curiosity and a humility and a desire to know what's truthful, and that superseded what we thought.
It's so true. Yeah, it kind of goes back to that like Carol Dweck fixed versus growth mindset that she talks about. And I always thought, I mean, I've done a marriage wrong once before. And so I was married before. And I think the biggest problem was one of us, I think, was more growth mindset. So like, hey, I could be wrong now, but that doesn't mean I am wrong as a human. I'm just wrong in this moment. And like, we're going to keep figuring that out. And, you know, and if you're fixed, you're kind of like, I am either smart or I am not, or I am wrong or I am right. And that is very actually fragile as opposed to like, you know, Taleb's anti-fragile, which would be like, yeah, I can bend. I'm the grass or the palm tree. I'm not the oak that can break.
It's very freeing.
Yeah, it is.
It's very freeing.
Now today, obviously, I want to obsess on the idea of how do we help more humans find love? I mean, for me in particular, if I would have said that comment 3 years ago, I probably would have like, that's like so touchy-feely for me. I'm a finance person. Like, I'm like, what is wrong with her? Like, did she do some ayahuasca before this? But I think now that I've been, you know, married for many years and I've watched my parents have an incredible marriage. One, I think it's such a superpower. Like a marriage well done is so beautiful. And it's my happiest thing in my life. Like he's incredible. And don't get me wrong, we fight all the time too and have all the issues. So I want to help people as much as we can with your expertise, find love. And then I also want us, maybe even more important, it's not just about getting married, it's about staying married, right? Happily. And so stay married. And so I kind of, one of the questions I had was, one, how do you stay married? What are the traits of two people who stay married together happily?
I like talking about this because I feel I'm discovering this as I'm talking, because I've talked so much about dating. I've talked so much about getting into relationships. It's fun for me to think about this side of it because I've been asked about it less. Look, I think that you have to actually be I think a great marriage actually requires an awful lot of discipline. It's not a word that comes up a lot in relation to relationships, but I actually think discipline is really, really important because if you have a good body, there's a discipline there about the way that you show up in that area of your life. And it's not easy. There are days you don't feel like going to the gym. I don't feel like going to the gym. I would say 4 out of 5 days
Same.
that I go. I really don't. It's one of those things that I feel I'm happy I did it after I did it. Beforehand, not so much. And every area of our life is like that. Our business is like that.
Dating partnerships aren't the only ones that are really important. So are partnerships in business. If you guys right now are looking to build your business and you're confused on your next partner, on the next move in your business, I want you to know we got your back. We actually just started something only for owners of businesses who are looking to grow. It is, I think for you, if you are a 6, 7, or 8-figure entrepreneur that feels like right now today, you don't exactly have the recipe for your growth accelerator. If that is you, we got your back. Go ahead and click the link. You can talk to our team and figure out if you should also build alongside some other humans who could be your future partners.
You know that's so well. It has to be this thing that you go to work every day and you show up for it, and it's not always easy. You know, David Whyte describes, the British poet David Whyte describes our vocation as one of the 3 marriages that we are in. And like any marriage, you have days where you don't like it and you have to do things you don't want to do and you make sacrifices. And I think it's one of the things that makes people feel quite resentful of following their dreams is how disappointing following their dreams can be.
That hits too close.
But you know, like you do this thing, you see a person, I don't know, on stage and you go, I want to do that. But you're talking about 1/10 of the job when you see that person on stage. If someone comes and sees me at my retreat and says, I want to do that, they're seeing me in one weekend of my entire year. Most of my year is me sat in our house behind a laptop on Zoom calls or sitting in a quiet room making content. That people don't look at that and go, I want that life.
No.
They see you on stage. I want that. And that's such a small part of it. So then someone does it and they go, oh my God, I think I'm doing it wrong because I don't feel naturally happy all the time, or I don't feel naturally excited all of the time. So there are days where you don't want to do it. And I think there's true of relationships as well. It's challenging some days. You don't have the energy for it. You don't feel like listening to someone today when they're talking about something they're going through, and you're like, oh my God, I've 100 other things to do today. I really didn't need on top of that for you to be having an anxious moment about something. And you feel like you don't know. But how often is it like that at work? You have 100 things to do at work, and then someone comes to you and says, I need you to deal with this. And it is a swell of resentment. That like, how dare you bring me one more thing in a day where I'm already so overloaded? But it's like, that's what you signed up for. That's the game.
That's the game.
And so when you realize that's the game, you have two choices. Either decide the game is worth it, or you bail, or you stop trying, which is the slow death from that point on. But you have to have a strong enough reason to believe that the game is worth it. And I have been, long before I was ever good at committing in my love life, I always thought I had a big problem with commitment.
Interesting.
And what I didn't quite realize was that I had already been married I'd been in a marriage for a good 10 years of my life that I had been faithful to in this organization I'd created and the work that I do. So it turns out I was quite good at committing when I had a big enough reason. Mm-hmm. And I think that in relationships, that one of the greatest things we can have is really start with a big enough reason to want to listen to that person have a problem today, to want to wake up and see if you can anticipate a little bit what might make their day better, what might make the relationship a bit stronger. That to me is everything. And I think I am more connected today to why this relationship is important than I've ever been in my entire life.
What is the reason why it's important to you?
It makes my whole life better. Everything good in my life is made better by my relationship with my wife, and everything bad in my life is made easier by my relationship with my wife. She is the amplifier for all good things and a balm for all bad things. And so she's like this core asset in my life, this core thing that has this wonderful effect on everything else. And so for me, it's just so, if I'm resentful or if I'm feeling annoyed or I've lost sight of the bigger picture, which is like, dummy, your life is so, like, you have forgotten how much better your life is because this person is in it.
What do you do in those moments? Like when you have a moment, you're in your relationship, you get resentful, and you start pushing one way or the other. How do you realign and remember why you were there in the first place? Do you have frameworks or tactics you use?
I do. I have this is where we could really end up geeking out, but I have these things I call emotional buttons. Mm-hmm. And they are, this is a big module on my retreat, but it only became a module on my retreat because I had been using it in my life for so long that I felt like I can't not talk about it. But when we feel an emotion and it's a good emotion and we want to feel it again, it's really, really important to just like hit pause and go, what's happening right now? Is there a kind of set of ingredients right now that has led to me feeling this way? And it can be, it can be something really simple. I mean, there's a in that movie, The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg, and I forget the other guy's name, but it's about two brothers, really. It's about this relationship between two brothers, and there's this moment where Mark Wahlberg is about to get in the ring for this big fight, and his older brother is stood there with him, and he puts his forehead against Mark Wahlberg's head, and he's just talking to him. But I get goosebumps as I'm saying it, because he's talking to him, but he's being like, he's making him feel safe in a moment where there's so much going on, and there's so much noise, and there's so many nerves, and his older brother is really there for him in that moment. And it became this instant kind of emotional button for me for why I wanted to be a good brother. It's almost like bypassed logic, right? It's just, I saw a thing, and it instantly, I was like, I want to be a better brother. I've got two younger brothers. I'm one of three. Like that, that is an image of the way I want to be a brother to my younger brothers. And the thing I love about emotional buttons is that they bypass, I don't have to write an essay to myself on my why for wanting to be a good brother. An emotional button just bypasses that. All I need to do is call back that image, that moment. And sometimes it's the music from that moment, if you want to use music. Sometimes it's the picture of that moment. Sometimes it's the literal YouTube clip of that moment. But I can literally go back there. Now, a lot of us do this unconsciously anyway, right? We have songs we listen to put us in a certain state, and we have videos we like to watch that pump us up. And so, but what I'm suggesting is much more granular than that. It would be too simplistic to describe it as motivation. I have emotional buttons for so many different, very nuanced things in my life. I have emotional buttons for being a great brother. I have emotional buttons for socializing, because guess what? I'm an introvert who has socializing for me takes a lot of energy, but I have emotional buttons that I've written down that make me want to socialize when I reconnect with them. So to your point, to circle back, I have lots of emotional buttons for wanting to be an amazing partner, and for how wonderful my relationship is, and how lucky I am, and the kind of husband I want to be to my wife. I have emotional buttons, and they're not things I've conjured out of thin air. That's the beautiful thing about emotional buttons. You're actually working with things, tapping into nerves you've already touched before.
Brilliant.
Just by paying attention and recording the formula. Winston Churchill said, men occasionally stumble over the truth, but most pick themselves up and carry on as if nothing happened. And I would say anytime we stumble over a moment of peace, a moment of love for our spouse, like an uncommon moment of love for your spouse, where you just, sometimes Audrey has a laugh. I've never told her this actually, but there is a certain kind of like guttural laugh. She has almost like a dirty laugh that she has when you really make her laugh. I'm not funny enough to make her laugh like that every week, but like when I do, it's the greatest thing on earth. Like I live for that laugh.
Wow.
And something about that laugh, hard to even put into words, but there's something about that laugh that makes me love her so much. So me just remembering that under my emotional buttons for my relationship with Audrey would be that deep, like guttural, dirty laugh she does when she's really finds something funny. I think of that. I feel love for Audrey now as I'm saying it.
Yeah. I feel love for Audrey as you're saying it. I'm like, this is contagious. I'm like, I want to hear that laugh.
But that's, well, by the way, I mean, then we get into a whole other territory there, because that's why our favorite teachers at school were our favorite teachers, is because they were able to actually pass emotional buttons on to us. They loved something so much that there was a way of talking about it, a way of describing it, that they may have even been able to infect us with their emotional button. So if you were to open up my laptop, there's a file called Emotional Buttons, and it's broken down by all of the different things that I want to feel, because like Winston Churchill said, I never stumble over an emotion or a moment without just stopping and going, why do I feel so good right now? what is this? What's happening? What's the little formula that's going on here that I need to pay attention to, so that I don't have to wait until I stumble back over this by accident?
That's so good. It's almost like muscle memory when you're working out, how, you're supposed to pay attention. Like right now, I really am trying to flex my left glute because I want to activate it. And when I feel that, like you can feel it. But if you haven't actually paid attention to it before, it's hard to separate one muscle from another one. You could just be this cacophony of muscle movements, think you're working out, and actually not target at all the right areas.
That's exactly right. Because the button you would use to feel energized and like, let's go, is a different thing than maybe just contentment.
Right.
Or peace.
And you might not know why. And so then you become this series of accidents, like you talk about, where you don't know why your emotions are so all over the place. You don't know why you're feeling this way today or not, as opposed to like, I do recognize that I feel anxious in this moment, which happens just about every time I have 2.5 cups of coffee. and I don't get a good night's sleep because I sleep better with my spouse. That is such a powerful unlock. I'm going to start doing that.
I literally, there's almost no tool that I use more in my life than I have a little day planner that I put my to-dos in and whatnot. And if you could open it up now, you would see that every day, the first thing, and I'm not someone who's like 1,000 morning routines and all of that, but like there is this one thing that I tried to do. I don't always get it done, but I tried to spend just 5 minutes in the morning, open up my emotional buttons file and just pick a selection to engage with, because it's like having a kind of treasure trove of all of these things that tap into beautiful states that bypass logic and just make me feel like I feel very, very abundant when I look at them.
And you know what else I like about it? It's really simple. Like if I think about my husband, he notices them more. He has much better self-awareness and body awareness than I do. And so when he gives me a hug and he does this like deep breath kind of hug thing that if anybody else did it to me, it would totally freak me out. But when he does it, it's like, I just feel down regulation. I immediately am like, that just got rid of all this stress I didn't realize I had. And it was just this big hug that I got from him. And if you asked me that question, what do I think would lead to a happy marriage, or what's my deep why, I would have gone cerebral. I would have said, because this is your partner through life and they're there for difficult times, and remember that. But it's way more powerful actually to feel it.
And you're right, by the way. You're absolutely right. That's a perfect answer. What I like about what you're describing is, if it is the why, right? Like if you had a table, it would be like on this side is your actions, and on this side is your why for taking that action. Why am I going to take an action in my relationship today? Actions take effort. Actions take energy. Why? How can I get myself to do this thing? And of course, as much has been written on starting with why. Yeah. And, a friend of mine, Simon Sinek, has like led that charge. But what I'm intensely interested in is the bridge between action and why. Yeah. How can we get to the why quicker? What's like the main line where you can just push a button and that button is an instant trigger for your why, without you having to go through the process of every time you need to connect with your why, sitting there and going, I'm going to journal about what my why is in this area. What's like the instant like connector switch? And for me, that the middle column between those two is emotional buttons.
That's so good. Now, let's say that somebody's listening and they're like, all right, I'm not with somebody yet. Or a lot of people, I think, are with somebody and they're super unhappy. Like I know a lot of married people these days who say, I get it a lot from men, actually. Man, I wish my wife worked as much, as you did. I wish she understood the business. She's not as supportive with working all the time. So I guess my question is it better to have no spouse than an unsupportive spouse?
Yes. But it depends what we mean by unsupportive. Like to what extent, how do we define unsupportive? Because there's so much to say on this. Firstly, if we start from a place of there are many different ways to live a good life, and charging forward with a business that energizes and excites you is one potential route to a good life. So is being a teacher. So is having a hobby that you love, that you lose yourself in. So is being someone who's just very into creating peace in their life and doesn't need to be racing around all the time in order to be happy.
Sounds nice.
I'm one of the things, I'm not to be too self-referential, I want to be careful, but I am the kind of type A, like, I've always been that hyper ambitious, charge after it. One of the things I've been most grateful for is having someone who also brought a different energy to the table. And I think that sometimes we live so much in our little, like, narrow lane of how we live our lives that we don't realize actually there might be some real merit to the way that someone else prioritizes differently than we do. And that might be just the kind of medicine that we need to help balance us out a little bit. So sometimes what people define as unsupportive, I think, is someone with values that says, for me, a good life isn't working day and night. That's not what a good life is to me. So then, and I would say there's nothing wrong with that. It might even be healthier. But the question is then, okay, so then how do these two worlds mesh? Mm-hmm. Is this person sort of this active impediment to certain goals that you have that are really important to you, and it takes no time to understand or see where you're coming from or what you're trying to do and why it's so important to you? And are you someone who can't stand the fact that they live life differently than you, even when they're not necessarily asking you to be anything else? You know, if they want to build out their days differently, that's their prerogative. I think that there's an arrogance among a lot of entrepreneurs and people who start things up, that they think if you don't, like, if you're not on board, you don't get it and you don't support me. And it's like, no, you being with an entrepreneur is a nightmare.
Yeah,
it's a nightmare. True. It's like you like, many of them are workaholics. They never stop. They're always talking shop. They can't get their brain off the business. They're in anxious states a lot of the time because it's like a lot of the time it's make or break, and you feel this immense pressure and stress. And also, let's be real. There is something wildly selfish about being an entrepreneur. Like that.
And irrational.
It's like people, I'm doing this for, no, you're doing this for you. Most people are doing it because it's your dream. Yep. It's a bit like someone, we think when it's building a business, that somehow people get a bit more righteous about it. But if someone if someone's partner said, I'm going to go and act in Los Angeles, but I'm doing this for us, you'd be like, no, I support you and I love you. And if this is going to make you happy, then let's figure it out. But don't tell me that you're moving to Hollywood and making less money and doing all of these auditions for us. This is your dream. And I think we have to be very careful when we have a thing that we want to do, when it's important to us or our sense of significance or our sense of purpose or our ego, that we do this. And then we want to be mad at someone else because they don't get it and they're not like on board with us. A team is one where I recognize your goals and you recognize mine, and we both really, really care about each other's goals. And we really look at all those goals and we say, look, I get this is really, really important to you. How do we make this work? Like, what can we do? And you do the same for me. It's not one-sided. We do it for each other. That's a healthy relationship. But I get a little like frustrated with all of the people out there who have decided that they're going to go on this like crazy mission, and then they're mad at their partners for having questions.
Yeah, it's actually, when you say it that way, it's so true. You know, do you think, it's interesting. You talk to a lot of women about dating and how to not settle in their relationship and in the love that they found or find. What is your best advice for women on making sure they don't settle?
To cut to the core of it, be very, very honest with yourself about what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. Because we tend to settle for things when we're not actually being honest about what's going to make us happy. So for example, you start seeing someone who is, charismatic and sexy and, makes you feel alive, and you have a great time with them. You feel this amazing connection. But let's say there are some major catches. They don't want a relationship. They continue to see other people. They are extremely inconsistent with their communication. They are completely out of sight, out of mind when you're not with them. So you never feel safe. You constantly feel anxious. You don't feel like you can ever fully hold on to them. It never really feels like you're together. And so you're living for the next time you're with them, which is amazing when it happens, but it's miserable when you're not with them. And even when you're with them, if you're honest, it's kind of miserable on some level, because even though you're happy, you just can't keep looking at your watch going, when is this going to end? I know it's going to end in a few hours, and then I might not hear from them for another week or two. Like that, in that situation, which is extremely common, we are incredibly unhappy, and we are lying to ourselves that we're happy. And we settle for that because we say, I can't give them up. They make me happy. They don't make you happy. They make you really, really unhappy. You feel anxious. You feel unloved. You feel forgotten about. You feel unimportant. You don't even feel chosen because they're not even telling you that they're going to be with you, to the exclusion of other people. You don't feel safe. You are unhappy. You're telling yourself you're happy. It's not true. And to me, a great piece of advice is the next time you go out to date, ask yourself, okay, before I even meet someone I'm attracted to, what was missing last time around, that because that thing was missing, no matter how wonderful I thought that person was, because that thing was missing, I was miserable. It was a version of hell. And look, I've been in a relationship before where I did not feel safe. I felt anxious all the time. I was constantly feeling insecure. And I really didn't want to lose the relationship. And I was so unhappy. Even one of my dear friends, my publisher, Karen Rinaldi at HarperCollins, she said, I came to see you one day during that relationship. And, I left and I spoke to my sister. I know her sister as well. She said, I spoke to my sister, and my sister said, how's Matthew? And she said, he is not happy. Like, I can see it in his face. He is not happy. Now, at the time, I would have told you, I'm great. I was miserable. I just didn't want to admit it to myself, because then I'd have to do something I was scared of.
Yeah.
But, which is, by the way, either leaving or speaking up for yourself. But we're afraid to speak up for ourselves because we think that if we speak up for ourselves, then it's going to spell the end of the relationship.
Right.
We're only going to keep that relationship if we continue to keep our needs very, very small.
Yeah. Well,
and not ask for a lot.
And heartbreak is just, once you felt it, it's, you have PTSD. You don't want to feel it again. And it can feel so heavy and overwhelming. And so I get why we delay. It's like anything. When something fails or breaks, whether it's in business or in love, it sticks with you. And so, you actually help a lot of women with the worst case scenario, theoretically, which would be heartbreak. What do you do to help somebody through a broken heart, or what do you tell them so that they get over the PTSD?
And by the way, like, I should say this because I know you have tons of men in your audience. Actually, these days we're a very mixed audience. Like, we have everybody. I used to address more videos to women. These days I kind of remove the pronouns from it because I'm like, everyone's here.
Plus, we can do that in 2025.
Plus, we can do that.
Last year you couldn't do it, but this year you can.
No, I stopped. I'm like, this is so universal. This is so for everybody. I'm not like, we have a huge gay audience. We have a huge male audience. We have women. We have everybody. So
We're
I'm
just
like,
humans.
yeah, heartbreak is something we all go through. And it's, the heartbreak, there's a difference between acute heartbreak and chronic heartbreak. And chronic, acute heartbreak is what we all go through when we experience a big loss in our lives. And the heartbreak where someone leaves us and we didn't want them to leave us, especially, I mean, although we can still get heartbroken when we're the one leaving and doing something that we feel is right for us, but we're going to miss someone. It's a form of grief. And, as my friend David Kessler says, who's the #1 grief expert in the world, grief is nothing but a change we didn't want. And that, in heartbreak, we experience the grief of this loss of somebody, and we have to work through that grief. That's acute heartbreak. Chronic, and by the way, everyone moves through acute heartbreak. Chronic heartbreak is what takes over when we can't seem to get out of it, when it sticks with us. And it sticks with us because it becomes a story. There's the facts. I lost someone. That's hard. I'm having to adjust. I miss them. I even miss the chemicals that flood my body when I have someone in my life. I miss the routines. I feel lonely when I'm by myself. I'm sad about the history that I've lost. I'm disappointed that the future I thought was going to happen is not the future that I'm being presented with, that it's going to be a different future than the one I had planned. That's all acute heartbreak. But when we create a story that makes that heartbreak never end, that's when it becomes chronic. So for example, a story would be, they were the love of my life, or let me correct that, they are the love of my life, and they left. So now within that one statement, you have a recipe for chronic heartbreak. Because now, no matter whether it's year 1, year 3, or year 5, the love of my life is out there somewhere, dating other people, getting married to somebody else, living their life, and they're not with me.
Does that happen a lot? Do a lot of people?
For sure, yeah. Because we go on believing they're the love of my life. And the truth is they're not the love of... They were a love in your life, but that... You have to define, what does it really mean for someone to be the person that's right for you? It has to surely involve them saying yes to you.
Yeah. So a lot of this is like definitions.
It's really important to say, if someone doesn't choose me, they cannot be my person. Right. There's no such thing as my person is out there, they're just not choosing me. That does not make sense. By definition, the right person for us is the person who sees what's valuable about us. It's the person who chooses us. The right person can never be the person who doesn't choose you. But as long as you tell yourself, my right person broke up with me, the love of my life broke up with me, and you hold on to that story, then you'll stay heartbroken.
I've never thought about it that way. It's like, if you don't know what you want, then you're going to keep repeating your patterns, and you're going to think that you're happy and in love, but that's really just because you have a definition problem. And if you keep feeling like your heart is broken and you'll never get over this person, that's also a definition problem.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating. So I think a lot of times lately what I hear is people saying, and I'll just go back to women because I am a woman, but replace this with a man, and I'm sure there's something different, which is like, men don't like women who are X. So like, I want to play that game with a few of these. For instance, do men not like women who are intelligent?
Some men are threatened by women's intelligence, that's for sure. Other men won't date a woman who's not intelligent. But I think to give credit to that statement, there's an awful lot of men who are already coming to the table with a chip on their shoulder. and they are trying to figure out where their significance comes from in life. And so when they come along and you're intelligent, it's one more way that I'm not good enough. It's one more way that you're highlighting a deficit for me. And for those men, the intelligence is not high on their list because connection isn't high on their list. What's high on their list is feeling significant. Like, I know that for me and most of the men I know, being able to have great conversations with someone is an absolute must for a long-term relationship. They want someone they can shoot the shit with, they can see a movie with and leave that movie and be like, what did you think? And that person goes, oh my God, when that thing happened and I really thought it was interesting in this way and so on. Not, that was good. Like, they're like, wait, what? No, let's talk about it. Most of the people I know want that kind of a connection and are cerebral people, so they would struggle not to have that kind of connection. So for them, if they're going into, I'm not saying they don't have their insecurities, but if they're going into a relationship going, I want a genuine connection with someone and intelligence is important to me, intelligence is actually a must for them. But if you're going into dating women and your goal is not a connection, your goal is validation, your goal is significance, then the moment someone's intelligent, you're like, this is, I'm not going to get my significance here. And then add to that, if someone feels like they don't make enough money, or they're not tall enough, or they're not whatever it is they've told themselves they must be in order to be defined as a significant and attractive male, then any of those markers can immediately throw someone off balance. And so I think that's what happens is women's intelligence throws a lot of men off balance when they're already coming from a place of insecurity.
You do such a good job, and this is why I like your content so much, of being able to see both sides of the gender and being able to see different types of humans without a lot of judgment, but saying like, well, if their highest value is X and your input is Y, you're going to have Z equation. And like, we're not making judgments on it. It just what it is. Kind of goes back to that makes sense. Your core point is, I don't want to be right. I want to find what's true. And so I think that's why you seem to resonate with so many people, because you're like, I'm not zeitgeist. I'm not saying something to be clickbaity over here because I want to trigger somebody. I'm saying here's the truth that I found for any type of human. But it's really helpful because you don't hear that side as often.
Thank you. That's very kind. It means a lot. I think I really do see from both sides what's happening, and it's not, no one is, there's fault on both sides. There is, I work with women every day who are themselves valuing the wrong things, who themselves are putting too much of a premium on something that doesn't matter, or who have forgotten that, hey, it's an extremely immature place to come from, to think that a guy has to come to you bold and confident in every way when you're not 16. He doesn't, it's not, stop waiting for the captain of the football team to walk through the door as this, paragon of this model of confidence. He wasn't even that then.
It's like, put down the romance novel for a second.
This is a 16-year-old perception of the captain of the football team. He didn't have it all figured out, and he was insecure. Yeah. He just covered it up in a whole bunch of other ways. It's like there are women out there who are not paying enough attention to the nuances in men, or realizing that, hey, look, there are guys who are intimidated by everything. And that's a certain percentage of guys who can't handle a woman making money or more money than them, who can't handle a woman who's pretty, who they think could leave them, who can't handle someone who is intelligent or accomplished, that is too much for them. And then, you know, for a lot of people there, they become quite angry. Not everyone, but a lot of people do become quite angry. And then, yes, there's a small percentage of guys who, for whatever reason, their wiring, their upbringing, whatever assets they naturally have, are wildly confident and are very at ease with themselves and with women. There's a lot of people in the middle, which is the biggest group by far, who are just trying to figure out, like, where do I fit in, and what is my value? And I think that value in a relationship is a team sport. I think we hear the rhetoric all the time, like, you have to come whole, and you have to have figured out all of your stuff, and you have to, and I find that to be such a gross oversimplification. I think we all, who doesn't come to a relationship with insecurities? Who doesn't come with a little, like, baggage, or like someone did something and it made you a bit jealous and now you feel threatened and you don't know how to articulate it, and we all come with something. Some people come with trust issues. Some people come with a bit of a feeling of, like, a guy might come to the table and he's always been told his whole life that he's not that bright. And so he comes to the table with an insecurity. It doesn't make him a bad guy. It's just, I come to the table feeling like I've always been put down in that department. And so now, and by the way, combine that with a low socioeconomic background, and I couldn't go to college or whatever it might be. And I now have a bit of a propensity to think that someone who has gone through education and does come from money or whatever is a certain way. And it sometimes takes two people to come together and dissolve those caricatures we have of each other, and those ideas we have of each other, and those assumptions, to make us, like, drop our guard and go, oh, I don't need to be that. And of course, again, one of the reasons why it's difficult today is because whatever you look for, you can find it. If you want to find women who who discriminate against men constantly because of their height,
Yep.
You'll find it. There's plenty of them.
Yep.
You'll find it. But that's not all women. It's not all women care.
Mm-mm.
And some women who do care realize later on, I don't care with this guy because he's awesome. And I suddenly stopped caring because why on earth would I give up this incredible man? Like, there's a part in my book where I talk about the idea of the wall, and how one of the reasons why we keep, finding the same people or the same situations over and over again is because we're so focused on this wall that we want to avoid. And, Mario Andretti said it, the Formula One driver, when you're racing a car, don't stare at the wall because the car goes where your eyes go. Mm-hmm. And that is just true in so many aspects of life, that we stare at the wall. Yep. I had a woman who said, she was dating a guy. She said he was lovely. She was having a great time with him. And then one Saturday, he didn't invite her to a little get together between him and his friends. And she had massive issues with abandonment. And so when he didn't do that, she thought about it for 2 nights and couldn't sleep. And then the day of, she texted him and she said, in the middle of this get together, she was like, why didn't you invite me? And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't think it would be a big deal. I just haven't seen these friends in a while. Can I give you a call later? And by this point, like, her nervous system was fully hijacked. So she said, don't bother. Oof. Now, every day that he obeyed that wish and didn't call her felt like a validation of the thing that everyone always leaves me. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I've been rejected yet again. But that's always been her wall. And you stare at that wall long enough. It's like a guy who goes into a bar thinking everyone wants to fight him.
Yeah, it's true.
You'll always, if you're that guy, you'll always look for the guy who's giving you a funny look. And you'll always find that guy. Because there's always a guy who's willing to give you a funny look and who's ready to fight, because that's his thing. So then you find that that guy finds that guy everywhere he goes and says, you know, it's dangerous. Everywhere you go is dangerous. And I had a little bit of that, you know, like I had to work on that for myself because I grew up with a sense of, you know, I grew up around nightclubs and my dad was a nightclub owner and I was working in a nightclub from a young age. And I saw a lot of like violence and people being horrible to each other. And it kind of got my nervous system up. And so I was
were you a fighter?
I was someone who never wanted to fight.
But you did.
I was someone, no, here's the crazy part. I hated the idea of fighting with a passion, but my hobbies for my whole life were boxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. Like because that's when you get preoccupied with something.
Oh, yeah.
You start making it more and more and more of a focus. Now, I still do Brazilian jiu-jitsu because I love it, but it's not coming from the place it once did, which is I always have to be ready, you know, like, because anything can happen at any time. And then when you're looking for that, and I wrote a whole story in my book about it, where I was like in Japan with my brothers, and one of my brothers was like singing karaoke in this bar in Japan, and everyone's having a good time. And I spotted, because that was my hypervigilance, I spot the one guy in the room who's giving my brother this funny look. And in my brain, I'm like, something's going to happen any minute. This is going to kick off. Like, and my brother's the sweetest, most loving. He's like, by the way, 6'4", 5, whatever, does not need me to protect him. But in my older brother brain, I'm like, this is going to kick off, and my brother doesn't realize, and this is the problem. No one else is paying attention. I'm the only one who's paying attention. So I'm the one. I ended up saying something to this person, and of course, the way that I said something to this person instantly created a situation because I wasn't sweet and nice and whatever, and I spoke with a certain tone that made this person be like, "I'm sorry." Like now we're in something. So like, that's an example of like you're looking at the wall and crashing into it every time. And if you stare at your personal wall for long enough, whether it's that danger is always present, whether it's that no one can be trusted, whether it's that people always cheat,
women are bad.
Whatever that wall is, if you stare at it for long enough, you won't realize it's the wall anymore. You'll think it's the world. And once your wall becomes your world, you don't go, this is what life is like for me, or this is what life is. This is what men are. This is what women are. And that's what you have. So much of what's online right now is people who have made a decision about who women are.
Yep. Because
they're focused on their wall, and they keep speaking to other people who have the same wall and confirming, isn't this right? Isn't this reality? Isn't this reality? Isn't this reality? And they all agree, yes, it is. This is women. And then you've got women doing the same thing about men. And you've got that. And meanwhile, somehow there are all these relationships in the world between people who just actually really love each other and don't think about any of the How is that possible? And people say, oh, that's because they're good looking, or that's because, really? You want to go around the world and look at every couple you see and tell me that they're magazine like level looks and that they all fit the stereotype of people who have got it all together or who are rich and gorgeous and intelligent and funny? And no, every day, people with the same excuses as you find relationships. And that doesn't mean, by the way, you should shame yourself for not finding one, because the reality is finding love is hard. Mm-hmm. It is hard. There is nothing easy about finding the person you're going to share a room with for the rest of your life. That is not an easy thing. And the people who do it early and stay together, more power to them. Lucky f***s. Like, if you've met in college at 21, the love of your life, and you didn't settle, you're just genuinely happy forever, good for you. That is not normal. Yeah. Most people marry the wrong person too early, stay in unhappy relationships too long for half their lives until they finally get out, if they ever do, or never find anyone because it's hard. it is hard. So I don't want any of what I'm saying to come across like I'm saying it's easy and we're just making excuses and all. No. It is hard, but I know for sure the route out of that is not to huddle together with people who have all the same hang-ups that we do.
Yep.
And confirm that this world I'm living in is the only reality that is available, because it's simply not true.
That's so good. It's perfect because I'm thinking about a family member right now who is lovely, who I really want to find somebody, but I think she is looking at the wall, and her wall is men don't want to be in serious relationships. Men don't actually want to be with a working woman. They don't exist in my city. They exist in other cities. And if you just maybe allow that wall to become a curtain that you could potentially push aside for a second and see if there might be something on the other side, God, maybe your entire life would change. And it kind of takes me to one of the last things I want to talk about, which is you've found this. You found that there's thousands or millions of people all around the world who have, hundreds of thousands of questions about how do I find someone? And so you did something a little crazy, which is you created Matthew AI, which is essentially AI that takes all of the data and all of the experiences that you've had in your books and all of your courses and puts it into one spot where people can go back and forth with you to figure out their unique answers to their questions, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain what that is exactly?
So the biggest challenge I've ever had in what I do is that for 17 years, people have been asking for one-to-one coaching with me.
Yeah.
Or even if they never felt like that was available to them, DMing me with questions. I could be on a live with thousands of people and I'm getting thousands of questions all at the same time. Everyone wants an answer to their specific question. And we all are at different stages of life, having different challenges. We have different walls. All of us have a contextual question that we're like, okay, I get it, but here's my situation. And I have never been able to solve that until the last year. I'd never had an antidote to that other than to create courses and programs that catered to as many people as possible. But obviously the optimal would be that I would go and visit everyone individually in their home, sit with them and work with them. What we created with Matthew AI was, for the first time, a way that I could actually do that. Because as you say, we took 20 years of my content, courses, retreats, all the things, by the way, 99% of my audience have never taken. Most people watch me on YouTube or Instagram. They literally are just scratching the surface of all of the things that I actually coach when I work with people. But it took all of that and it put it into Matthew AI. And now Matthew AI is this service. Anyone who wants to try this, by the way, can try it for free at askmh.com. You can spend a few minutes with it just asking questions and see. People who are using it are routinely having their minds blown by how tailored the advice is. That it's not like generic. It's my advice first off. So you're not just getting advice from the internet, but how specific it is to their situation. Whether it's, I literally need to know what to text back right now. Can you help me with a text? Or my dating profile isn't getting matches. Can you help me redesign it? Or I have anxious attachment and I really like someone and I feel like my anxiety is going to blow it in the first few weeks or months of dating. Or I'm heartbroken and I literally need to talk to a coach for 3 hours every single day for the next 2 months. Like, it is helping people with both the very practical issues that they're going through, where they need to know what to do or what to say or how to decode something, what it means. People are uploading text message chains and going, what does this mean? Like, how do I interpret what they're saying? All the way to the much deeper issues of, how do I heal? How do I move on? How can I stop thinking about this person? How can I get through the worst time of my life? So, and it, by the way, is doing it in all different languages. We have people, like, literally you'll hear my voice. If you want to text it, you can text it.
I already did this, by the way. I already had some fun with Matthew AI. We tried to make it like mess up too, because I thought that would be fun. And it did it. I was like, what if I'm really into cheating and also I want to sell the other person's feet pics? And he was like, that's not a good idea. And it's really important in relationships that we have it based on honesty and integrity and blah. And I was like, this guy.
It didn't just support your
No,
evil goals.
it didn't just, which is really important. Sometimes, you want to make sure if you have friends, what do friends do? They're like, yeah, sure. Yeah, you're the best. He's wrong. It's him, not you. And I think what I liked about this in particular is I could see how people could come to it. And it is actually very emotionally hard to give advice that is needed, not what is wanted. And if you're not a pro and you just go to your buddies, you're never going to hear the things that you really need unless you have it one very rare, strong-willed human who's also highly trained in it. And so I had fun seeing that they could have a version of you who also is not always the nicest, the kind, but not always, exactly maybe what somebody wants.
No, it's real. And because it's what I would say. It's you're hearing what I would say to you if you asked me that question. And it's and to your point, by the way, it's not just that it will be honest with you, it's that you can be truly honest with it. Because I have people who tell me there are things that I can ask Matthew AI and share that I would never ask my friends, or it's far too vulnerable for me to say this to anyone in my life. I even have a very small group of clients that I work with over the course of a whole year called Club 320. And I have women who are in that group who tell me, I can access you as a coach. Like every month we have a call together. They're like, I know I can ask you a question. And there are questions I've still asked Matthew AI because they are so intimate that I know, like, I just can't ask you directly, which they can, but they don't want, it's like some people are like
feet pics.
When it's regarding the sexualization of their feet, but they'll go and ask Matthew AI something that they wouldn't even ask me. So it's a very, very, it's discreet, it's tailored, it's contextual, it's immediate. You're not waiting a week for an answer. You couldn't, even the clients that I'm closest to can't call me at 2 a.m. Whereas if you're in the middle of the night, you can't sleep, and you're worried about like a situation you're in, or you're scared that you're going to text someone you shouldn't, or someone just sent you a text and it's got your heart racing, the Matthew AI is literally there in that moment to answer in the moment, which is what makes the biggest difference.
It's so cool. I think that's a real innovation. You were super early, like we were talking about before on YouTube, 20 years doing this on the internet, real longevity and expertise. And then this new world of, I think learning in the future is not going to be courses. It is going to be, I want hyper-specific immediate feedback loops so that I can learn at my progress level and speed. And so I think it's really cool. And I hope more people do something like that because, man, like how incredible. We quoted, I don't know, we had 5 or 6 quotes between us of some people that we think extremely highly of through history. What would it be like to get to conversate with a Winston Churchill?
It's literally like what we said. Like, I wish Christopher Hitchens was here. I would be, if I had Christopher Hitchens, if I had Hitch AI, I would be asking him like about every world conflict right now, every world leader. I'd be going, what do you think of this? Like, tell me. I just have to know. Like, there's something fascinating about that idea of especially in a world where it feels like everything has become so expensive, like the democratization of access to someone that you really would like to speak to. That to me is really exciting. The idea that someone who couldn't afford to come to one of my live retreats can still get access to me in that way is very, very comforting.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you, Matthew Hussey. Incredible information about dating and marriage, and maybe most of all, the future of AI in a way that we could apply it to love. Who would have thought?
Thanks for having me. And it's real pleasure talking to you. I know you said some very kind things about me, but
I'm not nice. I'm kind, so I meant them.
No, I appreciate it, and I feel that, and it's clear to me, why people really love what you do. You bring a real, to the point, cerebral, but still compassionate voice to the things you're doing. it's rare. What you're doing is rare.
Well, thank you. And same. And we'll link everything in the show notes. I want people to follow Matthew everywhere around the internet. I think the world is a better place if we all find a little bit of love. And I loved the line of, like, he said, I promise you right now, every single day, other humans just like you are finding love. And that's kind of beautiful in a world that gives a little bit more of it.
Yeah.
You guys want to know something crazy? Only about 40% of you who are listening to this right now are actually subscribed to the podcast. If you want to see bigger guests, better guests, and get the answers to more of your questions, do me a solid. Hit the follow or subscribe button. And the only way this podcast grows is by you sharing it with people. It's actually the hardest thing that I've ever grown, this podcast. So do me one more solid, which is share this with somebody you love who you want to find love. All right, until next week, guys. Hey guys, if you've ever thought about buying a business, we've built what I think is the best acquisitions and business buying community and education curriculum in the world. If you've ever thought about wanting to buy or own a business, or if you want to add more businesses to the mix, it's called the Contrarian Community. And what this is the goal is we give you the 3 things that the best business buyers use: your own advisory team, your own investment committee, and a deal team. We get together each week to review deals live and beat up all the deals that you're currently looking at, while you simultaneously learn the best way possible, which is called modeling, by seeing other people put together deals. This is how private equity buys businesses. This is how investment teams work. And we're stealing the methods from Wall Street and giving them to you. If this is interesting to you, go to click the link and you can actually talk to my team direct about if this is a fit or not. We can help guide you. The link is in the show description.
You got to get clear. In the next 3 months, how much do you want to make?
Today is probably the most tactical blueprint on making your first dollars and completely changing the way you interact with money. And it's with my friend Lewis Howes. He is a multiple-time New York Times bestselling author. He runs one of the biggest podcasts in the world called School of Greatness.
We all have a money story. Money doesn't heal who you are, it reveals who you are. And until you learn to heal, then it's just going to reveal.
It is therapy, but it's a different type.
It is. Most people have an emotional reaction with money.
47% of Americans die broke? And why?
You got to heal your money wounds. People may not want to hear this.
Hi, I'm Codie Sanchez, and this is the Big Deal Podcast. I have struggled with this question for the better part of a decade. What do I tell people who don't have money, who have a bad relationship with money, who don't know how to go further with money? But I think today, for the first time ever, I just heard how to make money even when you have $0 and how to start exactly where you are with what you've got. I was shocked when I started learning about this book because I think most humans will not be able to make money, not because they don't have the tactics, but because you don't actually know how you feel about money, and thus money doesn't know how it feels about you. So if today you feel like you need more money in your life, you should absolutely listen to this episode. Grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, be prepared to pause it and take some notes, because this is going to be an episode you are going to want to listen to multiple times. I remember when I first met you, you immediately, I barely knew you, and you were like, hey, what do you need? How's that going?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, do that. Don't talk to that person, actually do this instead. So, like, do you think that half of your success is actually due from just you being this connector and giver?
Yeah.
Is that the secret sauce?
Trying to help other people achieve their goals and dreams. That's what I've kind of done since the beginning. And that's one of my gifts or talents. And so I try to lean into that and be a generous giver of my talent. Some people might have a lot of money. That's their talent. Okay, how can I give more of that thing? And that's just my gift. And I think there's 4 different ways of living life with or without money. And the first way, and I've lived all 4 of these. And the first way is what none of us want to live, which is being broke financially and broke emotionally. When I was 24, 25 on my sister's couch, I had no money, 3 credit cards I was living off of, student loan debt, and I wasn't generating any money. So I was financially broken and kind of like spiritually, emotionally broken as well, because My dream had been crushed from getting injured as an athlete. My identity was gone. I was living on my sister's couch. I was like, I'm a grown man acting like a child, getting, taken care of by my sister.
You're too big for a couch, too.
Exactly. It was just like I was broken financially and emotionally, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. So I had no clear game plan. So it was just kind of wallowing in depression, victimhood, why me? No one wants to live that way. That's the first level. The second level is being financially broke still, but starting to feel more emotionally, spiritually abundant, free, excited. And I started to shift after about a year into thinking, okay, I need to get out of this rut. Let me find some coaches, some mentors. Let me start learning. Let me start overcoming fears. Let me start developing skills. And when I started getting momentum around that, it's like something unlocked inside of me where I had this passion, this drive, this excitement, this like, I can take on anything, this kind of fearlessness. And so I was starting to feel more rich inside, even though it wasn't paying off externally in the bank account yet. But eventually that momentum started to build into creating financial freedom. After a few years more after this, I remember I made my first $1 million. And it was like, wow, all this excitement, this hustle, this grind, like I was willing to work all day and night and do whatever it took and help as many people as possible, say yes to every opportunity. I started generating money. And I was like, okay, now I'm making it. But a few years later, I was obsessive about making more and more. I was like, how do I grow? Every year's got to be bigger. Let's 10x every year. And there was a point after a few years where I lost the internal richness and I started to get more afraid, fearful. I started to feel like everyone was now trying to take advantage of me as opposed to we are working together. People were coming out of the woodwork from middle school who saw I had money and now asking me for money. So it didn't feel good after a while. And it didn't make me feel, it didn't solve all my emotional problems having money. So it was almost like a more challenging thing for me because I had this money. I thought it would make me happier and it actually wasn't solving my emotional problems. So I felt more emotionally bankrupt, even though I had money financially. And that's a big challenge because you think, okay, let me go make more, build more, become bigger, better. And it's still not filling me up emotionally. That's a scary place to be. And so this is the third level. And I was living in LA here, 5 miles away in an apartment building during 2000, 2001, a really nice apartment building where there were a lot of billionaires, millionaires, celebrities, athletes, all that stuff. And I was driving back one day from a road trip and there was a white tent in the parking lot in the valet. And I said to the valet attendant, I was like, someone didn't jump, did they? Kind of just joking. And he said, yes, someone just jumped like an hour ago and committed suicide from the building I was living in with all these billionaires and millionaires. And I was like, how could someone jump in this building? This is like the nicest building in LA. And I later found out who that person was, who was worth $500 million. And a big movie producer and executive. But for whatever reason, he wasn't feeling rich emotionally. He had all the money in the world, but something was off internally that caused him to not love himself, not accept where he was at in his life. And that, separation of having so much externally, but feeling broken internally can cause a lot of pain for people. Having money can solve money problems, but it can't solve self-worth problems necessarily.
Yep.
You can be a net worth millionaire, but be bankrupt, and not be a self-worth millionaire. And the goal is to go from level 0, level 1 to level 4, which is becoming financially free and also becoming emotionally free, spiritually free, rich abundantly internally, feeling peace. And most people are stressed with money right now. They're uncertain with the economy. They don't know where their money's coming from next month, if they're going to have a job or not, if their business is going to collapse or not. They don't understand. There's so much fear and anxiety. And so they're crippled by the fear internally. And when we can set ourselves free emotionally around money in general, we're going to be money's not going to have power over us, whether we're making more or making less. We're still going to feel good with us. And that's the whole reason I wanted to write this book.
So true, because increasingly I think peace is the new rich, and everyone has everything besides peace.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about it in the US, there are certainly those of us who are still struggling with hunger, certainly those of us that are still in a place where we have massive scarcity. But like people dying of pure starvation in the US, not that common.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot, and yet we feel more anxious and like we have less than ever. And at first I thought you could just fix it by all of us making more money.
Exactly.
That was my tactic.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's just go. Let's teach more people how to make more money.
You can solve money problems.
You can, but you realize very quickly that, you know, the guy at the top is oftentimes just as unhappy, or maybe more so, because he thought on the way up that he was chasing happiness.
Exactly. And I think we talked about this before. It's like, you know, this is not like a judgment or anything here, but it's when is enough enough? And we can only strive for more and play the game of, I'm going to make $10 million, $100 million, $1 billion, cool, whatever. It's fun. But is it doing it because I don't feel enough?
Yeah.
Or because I don't feel peaceful and I need to make more? Or is it doing it because this is what I love and I want to like make a big impact on the world, but I feel good with me whether I make it or I don't? And I think it's getting to that place of being driven by a vision so big or so exciting for you, but not because you need to validate your self-worth.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, yeah, I think the love of the game is why a lot of us continue to do it, but it's brutal. I mean, what would you say to like a young man out there listening to this right now who kind of feels a little lost, destitute, not making money, maybe not even meeting other people, you know, not in a relationship and married like you newly are, and isn't sure where to go next to get even to from level 1 to level 2, just to start making money? Like, what are the changes you made to do that? And what would a young, broke dude who got a chance to talk to Lewis, what would you tell him?
I'd probably say 3 things. The first 3 things that came to mind, I would get a physical practice first, like really master your body, because if you're not feeling confident within yourself, you haven't mastered a routine of rigor or discipline or consistency around some type of working out. And when you master your physical health, or at least you're on a journey of mastering it, doesn't mean you have to have a 6-pack or be shredded or anything like that. But if you have a consistent program with that, 30 to 60 minutes a day, you're going to feel more empowered because you're taking back responsibility of your own agency. Second thing I would say is find a spiritual mentor. You know, when you're lost, you need a spiritual guide in your life. And if you aren't able to tap directly to God or your belief system of why I'm here, then lean on someone you admire. Find someone you admire. I don't care if it's a sports coach, a business leader who follows practices you admire, or a pastor or something like that. Find someone that you admire who is living a life of high values and integrity. Because ultimately, you want to be living that life. You don't want to be living out of integrity, because it may be fun for a while, but you'll always hurt people along the way and ultimately hurt yourself along the way.
By the way, if you're building a business right now and you're stuck or you want to break out to the next level, maybe you're not where you want to be today. Believe me, I've been there many, many times. I want you to know I got you. We help thousands of business owners a year figure out how to scale to the next level. One of my favorite mentors said, every level you have, there's just a higher level and a higher devil. And so if you've been in business for a while and you're doing 6, 7, or 8 figures, there's probably one thing standing in the way of your next level. That's why we host growth and scale workshops 4 times a year throughout the year in Austin, in Miami, in San Diego, and you may be a fit to come to one of them. If it sounds interesting to you to get help on how to scale your business to the next level, you can reach out to my team at the link in the show notes. We believe in you builders, but we also believe that it's a lonely road and you can't do it by yourself.
And then the third thing I would say is to really study and learn about money and make money feel relaxing to you. Most people stress out of it. I stressed about it so much because I didn't understand it. And there's still levels that I don't understand today. It's not like I'm a money expert. I'm not an investing expert or budgeting expert. I've learned how to master these things, but it's more about learning how to have conversations around money where it's fun and you're not fearful around it. Because when you're fearful around something, that thing has power over you.
Yep.
It triggers you emotionally in your nervous system, and you're afraid to even just tell people your money situation. Most people talk about their sexual intimacy more than they'll talk about their money situation. And if you're willing to have conversations around money and just be more flexible and flowing around these conversations, make it more common, you're going to allow the flow for money to come to you. When we are in fear around something, why would we want that thing to come to us? If we're psychologically, emotionally afraid of it because we don't understand it, we're ultimately going to push it away. We're ultimately going to block the flow of abundance financially to us when we are in fear of that thing. It's an energy flow, and you have to be willing to receive money and be ready and prepared to receive more.
It's actually fascinating. I've never thought about that before, that people are more willing to talk about their sexual intimacy than money.
Yes.
It's actually really true. Some people are willing to talk about money, but only once you have a ton of it at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Even then people say they don't even reveal what their money or how much they spend.
True. It's like somewhere in the mid, there's some like amount of bravado, you know, about, and then you like hit the real money amount. And you're like, oh, whoops, that's not cool anymore. I shouldn't talk about it. But that's fascinating. Like you've got, I mean, more power to however you want to talk about your sexual intimacy, but you've got entire podcasts like Call Her Daddy or whatever. It's really a lot about sex. And there's nobody coming on here talking about money except almost in a shame-based way. Like I like Caleb Hammer, but being like, this was dumb, this was dumb, this is dumb, this is dumb. As opposed to any sort of vulnerability around it. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I just think making it more of a common practice around, hey, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm trying to get to, and being open to having the conversations where it flows more easily.
And is it more like what would that look like in practice? Like Jesse Itzler, for instance, I remember him saying that he would go to the Beverly Wilshire and he would sit in the lunchroom and he would order like the cheapest thing that was on the menu. And the reason he would do it is because it would allow him to sit around all these really rich people. And then he would ask them, like, he would be like, hey, I don't have a lot of money yet. I'm on my way up. How did you get here? Like, what do you do for a living? And he credits that with his creation of NetJets.
100%. Yeah. And it's just having proximity to those conversations. And I think having them more frequently, even with the people in your life, even if people don't have money, just say, hey, let's talk about this. What are we working on today? What are you struggling with? How much money do you have in debt? Like just talking about it, making it more commonplace. Because the more comfortable you are talking about something, I think the easier it is to go create that thing.
You know, and I really like it because there's a lot of books today talking to us about why money's not important. You know, you don't need money. Money doesn't matter. And I think that happens a lot during recessionary periods. Those books do really, really well. Why? Because you already don't have it. So if somebody can validate that you don't need it, you're like, that sounds good. I'm on board. Also, rich people suck, you know? But,
exactly.
But if you can write a book that is instead like, hey, you're not net worthed by your net worth.
Yeah.
That's not your self-worth. But you can be okay pursuing it, I think is really, really powerful.
100%. I think if you want to pursue more money, like pursue as much money as you want. It's where is that pursuit coming from? Is it from a need to prove people wrong? Is it coming from a need because you want to validate yourself that you're worthy or you're better than? You're always going to be creating from a sense of scarcity rather than abundance. And when you create from abundance, a emotionally rich place, money can come and go and it's not as stressful. Yeah. There was a company about a year and a half ago. It was so funny because as I was doing the research for this book and I was writing this book, I hadn't finished it yet. And I was like, I'm still not ready to like finish this book. And for whatever reason, around this time, there was a company that essentially took $1 million from me and that didn't pay me. It was meant to pay me and it didn't pay me. And for weeks, I was like, when are they going to pay? What's going on? It feels like they were stealing from me, right? And I was kind of a mess. I was like, it's $1 million. It's not a small thing. And I felt more taken advantage of. It was more the act of abuse and taking advantage of. And I have stories of feeling taken advantage of as a kid and feeling abused, from sexual abuse to people stealing money from me as a kid, all these different things, picked on. And I go, this is perfect timing, actually. After like 2 months of stressing about this, I was like, this is all happening for me because this situation triggered a wound inside of me of abuse, of being taken advantage of a not fairness, right? And it's the exact lesson I still haven't graduated yet. And so after 3 months of this, I finally was like, you know what? They may not pay. It doesn't mean I have to love it, But I get to learn that I'm not tied down by what this company does or doesn't do, that I have an abundant sense inside of me. I can go create this money as well. It doesn't mean I have to like this and be like, yay, this was fun. But right now, this has power over me. It's consuming me.
Yeah.
And I'm living in scarcity. That scarcity is holding me back from being creative, resourceful, and making better decisions. And so once I started doing some healing work around that, I released it and let it go, and I stopped worrying about it. They eventually paid me. And I was like, okay, great. But now this is a lesson, knowing that when I'm in scarcity or living in fear around something or frustration around something, it's not going to feel good. I'm not feeling abundant when I do this. Mm-hmm. So how can I shift the energy? It doesn't mean I still have to handle it and take action and do certain things, but how can I shift my energy to know I'm going to be resourceful in other ways and I'm going to be okay, whether this money comes or they take it from me. And I think that's been a big lesson for me, is learning how to feel peaceful no matter what. It doesn't mean there's not going to be challenge or adversity, but how can I not let something rob me of my peace?
Hard, but really important.
And again, I keep going back to these millionaires and billionaires who are just overly stressed, overly worked, that are on drugs, suicidal, or committing suicide. What's the point of having all the money if you don't love yourself, if you don't have peace? What's the point then? It doesn't feel like a rich life to me.
Yeah. It's interesting because the hard part, I think, is what is the healing practice to that, right? And in my case, I know when I have something that happens that I don't like. One thing happened this morning. It was literally like, you know what my panic words are, Louis? If you ever text me, hey, we need to talk, instant panic. I don't know I don't know who texted me that originally and something terrible happened.
It triggered some
but
wound.
I just have I go, oh my God, they're leaving me. We're bankrupt. I don't know. Worst case scenario immediately. Oh, every time. And the only way that I've found to get around that at like my level, not at the level I want to be at, is most people kind of hide from tough conversations. And I usually, when I get those, say, hey, like, let's talk.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, pick up the phone. Let's have a conversation. What do you want to talk about? Or if somebody's like, can we talk, but later today or next week? No, let's do it right now. If you're important enough to like mention the talk, we probably should have the talk. So that kind of helps because usually it's never as bad as you think it is.
Yes.
And so you can clear it out. But what else do you do to get past this scarcity mindset? What are your practices?
You got to heal your money wounds. And it may sound a little woo-woo, it may sound a little weird, and people may not want to hear this, but we all have a money story.
Yep.
Based on how we grew up, whether it be our parents teaching us a certain way, either literally speaking a certain way or their energy. My parents fought all the time. It's my memory. I know it wasn't every day, but it felt like frequently. And when they weren't fighting, they weren't showing each other love. The only time they'd show each other love is after a fight. They'd kind of like hug or kiss barely and like try to mend it. But then it was just like a cycle my whole life. And a lot of this was around not having enough money. Stresses around money. So I, in my nervous system, didn't feel emotionally safe with money conversations. So I have these money wounds based on a money story. I also got into a season for about 1.5 years where I would steal at grocery stores, like candy bars and stuff when I was like 10, 11. I had kids steal from me. And there's just kind of all these money wounds, these money memories that creates a money story inside of my mind and also my nervous system. You have money story. Your husband has his unique money story. And that creates our money style. How we spend, how we save, how we think about money, how we talk about money. It creates a money personality style that we are today. And until we heal our money wounds and take ourselves to money therapy, which sounds kind of weird, and mend those wounds, we'll continue to live in a certain personality style and create a strategy around money based on that energetic nervous system response. And that's going to create money, a career, a business from that energy until we shift it and heal it. And it doesn't mean it's good or bad, right or wrong. It just means that's how your personality style is. I know people that never look at their bank account. They just spend based on their money story and their style. I know other people that look obsessively daily and they save every penny because they're worried for whatever reason based on their money story and style. And here's an example I like to give people, and we'll do this with you. Imagine, Cody, that money was a person.
Okay.
The idea of money, the representation of all the money in the world was in one person. And that person walked through the door right now and stood right here. What would your initial thought, feeling, or response be if money walked in and stood right in front of you?
Be stoked.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm picturing Elon Musk because I think
Yeah.
most of the money does
Yeah.
live there. Yeah. I think I'd be like, sweet. I get to, like, what's the deal? I want to know what's going on over there.
Okay. Cool.
I think that's my
You'd
reaction.
be excited. You'd be stoked. You'd be
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah.
You'd be open-minded, right?
Yeah.
I've asked this to so many different people. I asked this on Mark Manson's podcast. And you know Mark Manson,
Yeah,
the
I
subtle
love
art.
Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I go, money walks in the door. What's your first response? He goes, that guy's a douchebag. I was like, really? I go, tell me why. That's his initial response based on his whole life history and a money story. And this guy's a multi-millionaire and makes tons of money with his books and show and everything. But he goes, yeah, he's kind of a stuck-up douchebag. And I don't know if I'd really want him here. And I go, okay, just notice your response. I asked someone in their late 20s, you're at a restaurant, money walks in the door, what do you do? And they said, I would get out of my seat and go to the bar and hide. Then I would start gossiping about money behind its back like it's in the room. Then if it came up to me, I would act like I was its friend. Then I would use and abuse it when I needed money, and I would ghost it if it ever reached out to me. And I was like, that's a very descriptive response and seems very unhealthy. And they were like, yeah, it is. And that's how it shows up in their life, based on their money story and based on their money personality style. That's how money shows up for them. And it doesn't make it right or wrong, good or bad, but is that relationship with money supporting you? With you, it sounds like, man, I'd be stoked if money walked in right here. I'd be like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Let's be friends. That's what it sounds like for you.
Yeah.
You'd be more like free, flowing, open. You know, I talked to someone else and they said, if money walked in the room, I'd give it a big hug and say, come, sit down, let's chat. It's just like, it doesn't make it good or bad, right or wrong. It's just, is your relationship supporting you in your daily actions around money, in your career, in your business, how you make decisions based on your relationship with it? And when people can start to reflect, I give a ton of exercises in the book on reflecting on your money story to see why you have this money personality style now and to see what your personal relationship with money is, just to assess and see, is this serving me in my life? Is it bringing me more joy or more pain? Yeah. And that's it. This is not about how to be a mega millionaire or billionaire, because that's the key to life. Yeah. This is about, can you live a rich, abundant life inside of you? When you do, it really doesn't matter how much money you do or don't have. It doesn't matter if you have $1 million or 20 million. It's like you feel good with you no matter what externally is happening. Then the money is just an additional bonus. It's like, wow, I can do cool things with this. I can help more people. I can give more. I can buy a home. I can do stuff. But you're not living your life based on external validation. It's about internal feelings.
I love doing stuff. I think actually, you know what would be really cool? I would be so curious what would happen, Louis, if you're listening right now. I want you to play a little game with us, and we'll see if anybody will do it.
Yeah.
I want you to tag us in an Instagram story where you describe what your money style is.
Yes.
And what your money story is live. Like, I want to know what the story, and just tag Louis and I. Mm-hmm. I'm so curious to hear what people's immediate reaction is when they see money walk in the door.
That's it. Yeah. And your money story and your money style equals your strategy, how you show up with money in your life today.
Okay, wait. So I want to back up. So first you've got your money story, which is like, if money walked in the door, how would you react?
Well, your money story is more of like all of the memories and wounds that you have around money. It could be good things. It could be negative things that you remember growing up. That is like, when I grew up, my dad and mom said, like, money doesn't grow on trees. Yeah. And they were stingy and they didn't give me an allowance and I had to work hard for my money, and it was all about hard work or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or it could have been like, man, my parents taught me that money comes freely to me when you add value.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to just be a value-driven individual. And I learned that money flows abundantly and it doesn't like consume me. whatever your personality or your story is around money.
And you write down.
You write
your
those
story,
down. What are those memories? What are
Yep.
those memories that you can think of? What are the painful ones, the good ones? Mix it all together. That's
Okay.
your story. Write those down. Then think about your money personality style. How do you spend money? How do you save money? Do you invest your money, or do you just put it in a savings account? Do you not know what your money is because you got so much debt that you're afraid and ashamed to look at it? A lot of people are just like, when I had credit card debt, I didn't want to look at it. So I was like ashamed of it. I was like, I just want this to go away. And so I had to really start taking a look at things differently and say, oh, why am I avoiding money? Why am I avoidant of this? I was afraid of it. So I was strategically doing things in life based on my style and my story. And this whole, if money was a person and it walked in the room, that's more just to see what your relationship with money is. If it was a person, because I believe money is it's an intimate emotional thing. Most people have an emotional reaction with money. And emotions come from human beings. And so if you have an emotional reaction to something, imagine if it was a person. When you receive money, are you grateful and appreciative of the money you receive? Or are you like, gosh, stressed out, anxious, and just like frustrated with it? And imagine if you were always frustrated with a person in your life, how do you think they would feel? They wouldn't enjoy it. Imagine if you were never appreciative of them. You would never express gratitude towards them, especially an intimate partner. They'd probably leave you after a period of time. The relationship would not work. And if you thought of money when it came and when it left as an intimate relationship, and you said, as weird as it may sound, money comes to me, and if you said, thank you so much for being with me, where would you like to go? What do you want to do? It's weird thinking of it as a person.
I'm
It's
kind
a
of
dollar.
into it.
If you're $1, $100,000, $1 million comes in your bank account, and you just say, thank you, money, for being here, where do you want to go? Do you want me to give you away today? Do you want me to use part of you to buy something for myself? Do you want me to invest in you and put you in somewhere? Do you want to go into the stock market? Do you want me to put you in real estate? Should I hire someone and help them in their life and their dreams with your money today? Where do you want to go? And almost asking it, role playing, as weird as this sounds, I feel like you'll have a better relationship with money when you invest and appreciate the money that comes to you.
You know what's weird is it is woo-woo, but I think that if you don't do things like this, you can have all the tactics in the world and you will still be broke. And, it's fascinating. How did you come up with this?
Studying, asking, 12 years of research, asking all the wealthy people in the world that I knew.
And all your notebooks while
and
you're
all the
podcast.
therapists that I've interviewed
Interesting.
and all the healing work I've done on intimacy and relationships. And I realized from some of my biggest episodes around money, and I just would ask people, what's your biggest challenge with money? What's your biggest fear? What's holding you back? What's blocking you? What's your limiting beliefs? And it always came back to this relationship with money. And I know this because I had a bad relationship with it for a long time. And it took years to kind of heal and learn these things and figure out, how can I feel emotionally free with money? Because I don't want money to have power over me.
Yeah.
And even a year and a half ago, I thought I was free with money, and something triggered me. Something hit the emotional, psychological wound of stealing my money. And it made me furious. And I realized it still has power over me.
Yeah.
I'm still not free with money emotionally. And this relationship of me and money is not good still. Maybe in certain areas, but not every area. And I'm sure there's more levels for this. It's not like I've mastered this. This is about me exploring how to set myself emotionally free and have tools that if I ever go back into pain, how do I create freedom quicker?
That's so
And
good.
again, I just know so many people that I'd ask questions to about what are their struggles around money? What are their fears, their concerns, their insecurities? People are living in fear around money. And that fear is blocking their abundance. It's blocking their ability to earn more and feel free with the money they're earning.
Yeah, and even to learn about how to make money, because I think a lot of the reasons I go straight to tactics, because
Yes.
apparently I'm buddies with money. I don't know why, but
Yeah,
I
you
like
are.
it.
You walked in, you're like, hey, let's hang out.
Sup, what you got? But that's why I want to go to tactics immediately, because I'm like, oh, tell me. But you
But
know,
most people can't even go there because they don't have a relationship with it.
they cannot.
Toxic. Their whole relationship is broken.
100%.
So how are you gonna do tactics if you can't even be in a room with money?
Yeah, 100%.
If you got an intimate partner in front of you and you don't feel emotionally safe to have an open, vulnerable conversation as a tactic, you've got to do the healing work on you first before you can actually look someone in the eyes and say, hey, you hurt me. Hey, this upset me. I want to talk about it calmly, consciously. Instead of, you hurt me. It's like when you are so reactive or fearful and wounded, you respond based out of a wound, not out of wisdom, not out of like conscious communication, not out of clarity. It doesn't mean everything's going to be comfortable in your life. These are about, you're going to have uncomfortable conversations. But how can you have those uncomfortable conversations like you do from a place of, when someone says that we need to talk, you try to lean into it right away. It doesn't mean it's easy, but you consciously lean in and say, what can we do to make this better?
100%.
You know, you don't avoid it.
No.
You don't run from it. You do the uncomfortable thing, but you try to mend it faster.
Yeah. But it's a great point, because you know what would be sweet? I don't know. You don't have this in the book, I don't think, but like, I would love a quiz on personality types with money.
Oh, I've got a whole chapter with a quiz.
No, but you don't have like where you can go and click and say
got a
you're
quiz.
this on your website?
Yes.
What's the website?
Well, I mean, it's in the book and I've got the code in here. I have to find the
Okay,
actual link
so you
for
gotta you
MakeMoneyEasyBook.com
Okay, perfect.
is the website, but there's a whole
So you
chapter
buy the book.
with a quiz you can take here.
And is there
And
an
it tells you your
avatar?
personality style. Yes.
Okay, so what are you?
Well, I'll tell you this right now. Let me find this page so I can tell the exact process of
Tell me
this.
when you're ready, because
Yes.
and I'll tell a story in the meantime. So I remember I was speaking at a women's event.
Yes.
And it was a finance women's event with a bunch of like kind of pretty wealthy women, all in leadership roles. And this is when I realized that a book like yours was really needed, but I had no answers to this question then. I
Yep.
was going to go on and speak about how to do asset investing at like a high level, alternative investing, blah, blah, blah. But first they had this woo-woo chick in Austin come on and talk
Who
about.
was it? Do you remember?
You know, I don't. I remember a lot of feathers and like just
hat,
there were
big hat.
beads. There
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
hat, and I was judgy. I was immediately judgy.
Yes.
And yet, this woman came on and she blew my mind. She had us all close our eyes. She
And?
said, in the audience, everybody close your eyes, and I want you to visualize money, and I want your body to become a visual representation of your feeling of money.
I love it.
And so immediately,
Very woo.
yeah, very woo. And I'm like opening one eye slightly, but my hands like went up. I was like, money, I want it. I like it. And I kind of thought that would be everybody. And she said, now freeze, keep your eyes closed. Now open your eyes. And she had us look around.
And how many people had their hands up?
Oh, maybe like me and one other chick.
Wow.
And almost everybody else was, some of them might've been like this or like
Yeah.
this or like this. And that's when I realized, whoa, in this area, I'm messed up in many, many, many areas. But in this one, this is such a wound for people. And if
Big
we don't
wound.
heal the wound, then we definitely cannot apply, a new foundation. We can't apply growth. We can't extend.
Exactly. It's got to heal the wound. And
Yeah.
you were like free. You were like, I'm ready,
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I
Most
still
people
freak
are-
out about money sometimes.
But most people are blocked. You have a different thing. You know,
Which is I want too much of it. This is what you did to me on your podcast.
you have a
You're
different
like,
thing where it's like, I was like, what's enough? And you're like, I don't know. Like, you're like, there is not enough. You're like, I need it all. And it's not a right or wrong, good or bad conversation, but it's just why.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it wrong. Where is that coming from? That's it. And then you held back the tears. You're like, I'm not going to talk about this. I'm going to close down right now. I was like, okay, cool.
You did. You're
But there
like,
was
what would
something-
it look like if
Yeah.
you were enough? And I was like, shut up,
You're
Lewis.
like,
Stop.
next topic.
Yeah, stop trying to make me emotional.
And
But
it
you're
doesn't
right.
mean you don't have to like reach your ultimate potential and go for what you want to go for. I'm not saying that, but where is it coming from? And, I don't know if you've reflected on that at all, but it's like, I think your money, I can't remember what was enough for you. You're like, I want 100 million. No, I want $1 billion or something. I was like,
Just
okay,
kept going bigger.
why? And is your number still $1 billion or is it bigger now?
Well, I think some of the stuff that's helped me lately, we've talked about this, is that I want a family. And I want,
Yeah, it's hard to.
and I have to make space for that. And there's got to be another priority.
Trad wife.
Yeah, I want to be a
You gotta be a
trad wife.
trad wife.
You know this.
Hashtag
secretly.
trad wife life.
Oh my God, I want to be in sundresses, just prancing
You
around
know,
like a
in the
happy little
woods,
mother.
cabin, yeah, with the little.
That's why I judged the chick. I wanted the hat and the
I know.
beads.
Yeah,
Full
you
circle,
did.
probably.
You wanted to feel emotionally free.
Exactly.
But it's hard to be going for $1 billion business brand and be in your heart all day
Yeah.
and be like emotionally open and have flexibility and space for like chaos with kids running around and just being open to like cleaning diapers and like feeding and just listening to your kids like gobbledygook or whatever when they're kids.
Yeah.
Like you have to create that emotional space, that emotional freedom in order to be present. And if you're always in your head of like, we got to grow and build, you don't have space for that.
Yeah.
And it's not a good or bad, right or wrong thing. It's like, what do you want? What's your vision?
Yeah. And what's your season?
And $1 billion, what is that going to do for you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, buy you more planes than $100 million? Like, I don't know,
Probably
like cool.
Not a big difference between.
And then what? You're going to give a lot of it away or buy more sports teams or invest in cool stuff. But it's like, for what? To manage more problems?
Yep. That's very true.
And at the end of the day, what is it that you want to feel? What is $1 billion going to make you feel when you hit that?
Higher level, higher devils.
And so for me, it's like what I'm hearing your heart say, and maybe it's the season of life or I don't know, clock ticking or whatever it might be, or you just feel like, okay, I also want this, that there's some richness and joy to that as well. That's probably more than $1 billion will ever give you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely felt it more. I mean, for young people that really want money, I love that pursuit. I think there's like a level of happiness that comes with being able to cover your basic needs. But man, I think you and I have both felt this. The happiest source of joy in my life is my husband.
Exactly.
You know, and he's also the biggest pain in my ass sometimes, but mostly joy.
Yeah.
But I want to get to this style quiz.
Yeah,
Did
there's
you find
four
it?
different. Yeah, page 43 of my book. There's a whole quiz that you'll go through and then add up your number or whatever. But there's these different styles that each person has, and one is called the director. But there's also a shadow style.
Which one do you think I am?
There's the director, the energizer, the shepherd, and the analyzer. You're probably a director. This is the benefits of a director are a self-starter, focused on results, favors facts over feelings, which is all about you. You don't have feelings. No, I'm just teasing.
None.
You're not intimidated by challenges. You're willing to make tough decisions. You're cool under pressure, and you have a strong action bias. But there are...
Then what's the shadow?
Well, the shadow is the interesting part. The director becomes the dictator.
Oh,
and so the weakness is they don't value input, doesn't value input. They avoid helpful routines and details sometimes. They struggle to think of others, mostly thinking about your needs. Overcommit self and others to too many things, sacrifices healthy practices, doesn't want to wait, very impatient, expresses discontent or appears uncaring. So it might be you.
Check.
Yeah, I mean, but that's if you go in like the dark side of your personality style.
But that's amazing. So they should read the book, then take your personality style. Because then when you listen, I kind of am a believer, and I'm curious what you think. I think we can change, but not a lot. And so it's like, I'll probably always have a little bit of the dictator. I'll probably have a little bit of the director. But then it's just making sure you lead more from the light than the dark.
And the more you heal, the more you lean into the light side.
Right.
And that's the key. Like you're always going to have that style, but how can you have a healthier version of that style?
Right.
And not the dark version of that style. When I was, 10, 12 years ago, I just was down, like I was making all this money, but my ego was coming out. And I was so wounded in so many places that it was like aggressive everywhere with everyone in certain areas. And I was like, what is wrong with me? It's like this money was revealing more of who I was, of the dark side inside of me. Sure, it showed the light side as well. But when I was triggered emotionally, that came out even bigger. And money doesn't heal who you are, it reveals who you are. And until you learn to heal, then it's just going to reveal the better part of you.
So if you had to think about the steps that you would take to get money, it sounds like one of the first ones is going through these certain levels.
Yes.
And then what do you do next? So now you've got your style. Now you've got your story. Now you've got your personality.
Yes.
What do you do next?
So the first part is really understanding and having awareness about you. That's what it is. It's like reflecting on my story, reflecting on my style, getting my personality style so I understand what that is, and then reflecting on my whole strategy around money my entire life to where I am today. And once I have a kind of a blueprint around what that is, then there are 7 habits for creating financial freedom. And once we start to heal and mend and take ourselves to money therapy, then we can create financial success from a healthier place. Not from a place of, I need to prove myself, I'm not enough, I need more to feel good about me, or this will bring me happiness. So once we get to that kind of foundation first, then there's 7 habits. The first one is the mindset habit. And this is what I think a lot of people think, when I have money, then I'll give, then I'll be more generous. But the wealthiest people in the world start with generosity, even when they don't have a lot to give. I'm sure you've heard the Tony Robbins story about when he had like $10 in his pocket one day. He was like going broke. He had no money. He didn't know where the money was going to come in. And he was at a restaurant. He took himself to like his final dinner. He was like, all right, I'm broke after this dinner. And he found a young boy who was with his mother. And he went up to the young boy and said, you're paying for your mother, and here's the money. And he gave his last like $5, $10 away for this dinner. And he said he leapt out of the restaurant. Like the feeling of giving it, even though it was his last dollars, made him feel so alive. The generosity of giving a few dollars for this act of generosity. And he said, you know, he went home and someone called him and who owed him money and sent him the money that day, and more money started coming in. Now that might have been a synchronicity. Who knows? But it was more about the feeling of generosity. And again, if you don't have money, you don't have to give it. Yep. But what can you give initially? Again, when I was broke, I reached out to thousands of people literally on LinkedIn in 2007, 8, and 9, and built relationships with people by asking them questions. That curiosity, people don't want you to ask them for advice, but they love talking about their story of how they overcame challenges to achieving their success. You're going to get the same answers either way, but you're giving to someone when you say, can you tell me how you overcame this season of life? It seems fascinating to me. Yeah. Versus, can you give me advice on how to get a job? Yeah. No one wants to give their time to someone else, but they'll give of their storytelling about how they overcame something. And they'll give you hours of their time.
It's so true.
It's just a simple switch. How many people, Cody, to say, I love to, get 5 minutes of your time to pick your brain. It's like, you don't have time. You're busy. You can't give someone freely of this time that you don't even know. But maybe if someone wrote you a nice email and was just like, man, I really love like the business you did back like 7 years ago. And they really researched and said, they found something you did. They're like, that was so cool, and how you jumped from here to here. I would love to hear that story if you have a few minutes to share it. Maybe you won't have the time, but you're more likely to have the time if it's the right timing for you to say, yeah, I'm happy to email you or jump on a call, or maybe we can meet in the future. Like, you're more open to it. Anyways, the mindset habit is about being generous. And if you don't have money— I want to
double tap on that for a second, because one of my favorite quotes from one of my smartest mentors, Donald Park, was, if you want money, ask for advice. And if you want advice, ask for money. And I love that, because it's basically another level to what you're saying, which is, especially when you start, asking people to invest in your stuff, asking for a raise, asking for whatever. We think the direct path is the best, which is, I would like a raise, or I would like you to invest in this, or I would like you to X with money. But if instead you said, I saw, Louis, that at this point in your life, you did this X thing. How did you end up breaking up with money then? What was that like? Or if you said to your boss, hey, if one day I wanted to get a raise,
what would it take?
What would it take? What would that look like? What are you actually doing? You're asking for a raise.
Exactly.
But you're asking for advice, which feels much cleaner.
Yes.
So I think that's really, really powerful. And if you can switch that up, I love it.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing tactically on that is like, what does that look like for you daily?
Back then, it was me emailing people on LinkedIn constantly.
And it was just like one question. Like,
I tried to find 3 points of connection within every message. In the first line, I would find something that we had in common somehow. Even if it was, I see we're both from like the same city. I would just, whatever I could find, I would try to add that in there. And then the second line, I would talk about something where I'm really inspired by what they've done. I really like, what you created here at Sports Illustrated. I was back in the sports world early on, and how you've built this brand. So I was just emailing CEOs. And then I was always trying to find another point of like connection within the third line, which is, finding, it was usually on LinkedIn, it was who you have in common. Oh, I see we're both connected to so-and-so as our second degree connection. And I was just chatting with them last week about you, and they really love what you helped them with. So I'd always find a connecting person that we had in common. I'd find some couple points of interest that we had in common as well. And then I'd try to acknowledge them for what they've created. And then I'd say, I'd love to learn more about how you did this. And when I originally started doing this, I was just asking people for advice and no one replied. Then I was like, oh, you got to kind of like butter people up a little bit and be more intentional about it and do some research and be like more thoughtful about them, not about what I need. And the more I did that, I just repeated it and everyone started replying to me. And then people were taking me out to lunch and paying for me to learn from them when I was like broke. It's like, oh, there's something to this. And that's actually what inspired me to launch the School of Greatness. I was having all these fascinating conversations with people way more successful than me. And I was like, if people could only hear these conversations, they would be able to build a business like I've just done in the last few years. I was like, why don't I just start recording these things and put them out there? And that's essentially why School of Greatness was born.
That's wild. I've listened to you for years, as you know. But it is, even now, like as successful as maybe somebody, might think you or I are, there are dark, dark days and hard days that I put on School of Greatness, or I put on Founders Podcast, or I put on one of our other friends' podcasts. And I just listen. Like, I'm feeling a little lost. And so I want to steal just a little bit of that like energy, that contagion, like you talked about.
Yes.
And so I think that's beautiful. So it's this generosity and constant reach out.
And gratitude.
Yeah.
When you're broke, you're not grateful by default.
Yeah.
You're frustrated. You're resentful of the government. You're resentful of who's in, which political party's in power and what they're not giving you. You're frustrated that they took away this grant or these loans or this thing. You're like, I'm not getting what I want and they're not taking care of me. Or there's some resentment or frustration, typically, not by everyone. So you've got to learn to shift it and say, what am I grateful for? And living in gratitude and generosity. That's the first principle. Most people say, I'll be grateful, I'll be generous when I have more money.
Yeah.
You need to make that the first principle, the first tactic, and the first feeling, and meshing them together. How can I be a giver? And what that looks like for me now is when I see someone like you doing so well, I reach out to you. I'll send a voice note, a video message, a text, and say, God, this is amazing what you're doing. Keep crushing it. If I can help with anything, let me know. And if you're looking for advice on this in the future, I got your back. It doesn't have to be a lot.
Yeah.
Or it could be, hey, just thinking about you lately, what's the biggest challenge you're faced with right now in your business? And just doing that once every few months, or what's the biggest challenge you're having in life with it right now with your friends? Doing that once every few months with your top 20 connections and just being top of mind. And then when they tell you their biggest challenge, solve it as fast as you can. Because it's usually a pain they've had for months.
Yeah.
And when you solve their problem, and when you also connect them with one person who is the solution, you're now you're not just helping one person, you're actually helping two people expand. And then you become the champion of their relationship. They always talk about, man, so grateful for Lewis for connecting us. I have two buddies of mine that both, I did this like 4 years ago with two friends of mine. And one guy was like, I'm trying to figure out social media. Can you help me like what you do? And I was like, it's not something I do for someone. I can give you strategy, but I know a guy if you're looking for someone to help you run this. And I reached out to the guy and said, hey, this person's looking for this. Can you help him? He said, yes. I connect them. Literally a year and a half later, they send me a car to my apartment building because they made like $10 million together. Over this next like couple of years, maybe it was 2.5 years. They do $10 million together and they think of me as the champion of their wealth, of their abundance, of their success. They did all the work, but I was the champion that connected them. I thought about both of them, how they could both succeed. And they sent me a car as a gift, as a thank you. And it's just when you can do that for someone, you're expanding people's opportunities for success and growth. And you become the champion. They always want to give back. Most, if they're good people, they're going to want to give back. And just reach out to your friends, your family, say, what's your biggest challenge right now? How can I help? And try to solve it. Like, call someone right then and say, I got the person, let me three-way you in now. Like, do it now. And then I learned this by hosting LinkedIn networking events in 2008, 2009. I did 20 events around the country using LinkedIn as the platform to market these LinkedIn networking events. And the economy was crashing, people were struggling. This is how I got started. And every person that walked in the door, I'd say, what's your name? Put a name tag on them. And I'd say, what's your business and what's your biggest challenge? And then 10 people later, I'd say, what's your name? What's your business? What's your biggest challenge? And I'd be like, oh, someone was a graphic designer and someone needs graphic design services. I would take this person and walk them to them and say, connect, do your deal now. And I would do that for everyone that would come to the events. And they were all succeeding, sending me emails and letters and referrals and commissions for just connecting the dots.
Well, you did that for me with Rory, remember, in the book. And so because of that, I learned all about the inside of books and never would have done it. So it's really good. And I feel like the only way you can kill this practice of gratitude is by expecting something in return, right?
Yes.
So if you do this, you can't get mad when they never send you the car.
Yeah. And I wasn't expecting it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is like the key. All right. We've got point one.
Yes.
Let's do 2 and 3.
Okay.
And then we're going to make them read your book for the others.
The second one is the mapping habit. And this is really kind of creating a map and almost like a game plan for how much money you want to make. This is Codie Sanchez like tactics. I want to be a billionaire. Okay. So it's why do we want to be a billionaire? What's the process for getting there? And how am I going to get there? And what's this next season of life, these next 3 to 6 months that I'm going to start working towards this? What's the map? What's the game plan? Creating micro goals, bigger goals, and starting to strategize how to get there. When I was broke on my sister's couch, I was like, I just want more money. And then I was like, okay, a mentor was like, you got to get clear. Just in the next 3 months, how much do you want to make? You're broke. You're not going to be a millionaire in a year. Maybe, but it's like, just plan for 3 months. What do you want? I was like, I want $5,000. And he goes, how do you want to make it? Tell me if you could do it doing anything. I go, I want to make it giving a speech. I want to speak and get paid $5,000. And at the time I was learning public speaking and Toastmasters. So I was developing the skill, but I was not that good yet. But he said, okay, are you willing to go all in on this? Because you're so far away from $5,000 at this point, broke on my sister's couch. And I was like, I'm willing to go all in. He goes, put a date by when you want to accomplish this by. I want you to sign it and certify it, make a certification and put it on your wall and look at it every day and then take an action every single day to go make that $5,000. And the first week may just be, I'm going to go give 3 speeches for free and get reps. I'm going to get coaching. I'm going to get feedback. Then I'm going to charge, $5 for like a ticket to a workshop. Then I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to keep giving free, like whatever it is, map out the game plan to make that $5,000. Within 3 months, I made $5,000 on one speech. And I made money along the way, a little bit here and there, by taking the action on the mapping habit. So get clear on your goal. If yours is $1 billion, by when?
Yep.
What's the strategy? What's the yearly strategy? How are you going to break it down seasonally? Who are the people you need to hire? It's creating that game plan and map, and then signing a certificate to yourself from you and dating it and framing it and saying, this is going to happen. And it doesn't matter actually if it happens or not, but it's creating a clear intention, going back to that energetic feeling of this is happening. What do I need to do to make it happen? And just getting clear. The third one is the monetizing habit. This is something that when I was, again, broke on my sister's couch, I didn't know how to monetize anything because I didn't understand money. I didn't have a college degree yet, and I didn't know who would give me money. So I had to learn what are these intangibles, these hidden assets that I could monetize because I didn't have any hard skills that were monetizable. And these are some of the things I'm talking about, learning how to build relationships, connecting people, overcoming fears, overcoming self-doubt, setting clear goals, accomplishing them. It was just like having passion and energy, asking dumb questions to smart people. I didn't think these were skills, but who would have thought asking dumb questions to millionaires for years would have helped me build a business, would have turned into a 12-year podcast, one of the biggest podcasts in the world. I never thought I could make money asking dumb questions, and that's what I do every day. But it's learning about what are these hidden skills, these hidden assets that you don't think you have, starting to develop those and bring those out. And I talk about how to find and monetize your uniqueness that can really bring that out and bring abundance into your life. I'm telling you, I didn't think I could do any of this. I was so dumb. I was so insecure. I had no skills. I almost flunked out of college and almost flunked out of high school. And I needed tutors every year. And I was in special needs classes. So I didn't have the skill set to go get a job or do these things. But I learned how to monetize my inner world and my inner skills for external financial success. And you can too.
It's so good. Yeah, I wonder if in the future there'll be like a little money gym, sort of like there's a physical gym, like, because you can see thinking about these ideas, it is therapy, but it's a different type.
It is.
If our international language right now is money,
Yep.
and it is the one thing that we all spend most of our life in pursuit of besides sleeping, but yet we spend so little time learning about it.
Yes.
We spend so little time diagnosing it, and then we spend so little time figuring out our decision making on it or coming up with daily habits on it. So no wonder we're broke. 47% of Americans die broke. And why? Because we don't know how to habituate it. We don't know how to diagnose it.
Yeah.
And then we don't know how to make decisions on it.
I mean, unless you're Bill Perkins and you want to die broke,
Exactly.
die with zero. But that doesn't mean you die. You lived rich, but you end with zero.
Believe me, he's doing just fine. That guy,
but most people live with zero and die with zero.
That's right.
He lives abundantly, but he's planning to give it all away at the end of his life, I guess, which is a different strategy. So, yeah, the goal is to really figure out what your inner currency is and how to maximize that and monetize your inner currency.
What's been the coolest thing that's happened since you've put out the book? Have a bunch of people responded about it yet?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's more of like, going on tour was really cool to just see people and share these concepts and get people opening up. For me, and again, it's this little woo-woo, but it's getting people to open their heart to feel like they are worthy of their life. It's feeling I am worthy of the pursuit that I'm creating, whether I'm making tons of money, a little money, some money, no money, but reminding people of their worthiness. Because when I believe people are more self-confident, more self-worthy, they create and attract opportunities. You become wealthier financially. A person who lacks confidence and self-worth is usually going to sabotage good things when they come to them. And so you might be able to make something, but then you're like, I'm guilty and ashamed that I have this. It's learning to step into your power and your worth, not in an egotistic way, but just in a conscious, loving way. And saying, how can I be a giver? How can I be grateful for all that I've received? And how can I be generous in life? And I think that's a worthy life.
Yeah, but also a lot of the woo-woo stuff, people get mad about it with money because it's not tactical.
Yeah.
This is very tactical, which is why I think it's pretty rare, actually. I mean, I've read just about every book I could find on money because I do find it fascinating. But when people ask me, what are the steps to become rich when you have no money? My answer is typically
tactics.
You got to go obsess on your skill set and earn more.
Yes.
And you got to obsess on learning more. That's like
100%.
step 1 and 2.
And I did that.
But not without this.
But I did that and I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
I made money and it
forced
solved
function.
money problems, but all my relationships were broken.
Yeah.
And I was emotionally broken. So I was like, well, I just need to be bigger and better and be number one always. And if I drop down anywhere and I make less money one year than the next year, then I'm going to be stressed out and frustrated and I'm going to be angrier and I need to go make more and work harder. And I was exhausted. Yeah. It was exhausting. And it doesn't mean it wasn't fun at times. It's nicer to have money than to not have money. I don't want to go back on my sister's couch. And that fear of not wanting to go back made me like hold on to it more, as opposed to being more relaxed and flowing and allowing it to come and go and appreciating when it's here and saying, thank you for being here. And I got to spend you here. Great. I'm excited for that as well. And it was that journey of healing and understanding, oh, what's my money wiring? Why am I this way? Oh, let me just reflect on some of these stories and like, oh, I guess that's why my nervous system, I react around money in these situations naturally, because that's what happened to me growing up. So let me start to mend those things so that I can actually feel rich and be rich.
Is there a difference between men and women that you've seen and the way they think about money writ large?
Probably, but I'm not sure how to explain it right now. And I'm also, my wife is really smart when it comes to a lot of things, but she studied money for most of her life, and she had a healthy relationship with it when she was younger. Like she would tell me stories of like, they grew up in, poor Mexico, in the south of Mexico. They didn't have a lot of money growing up, but her dad, whenever they would have money, he'd have like her and her siblings on the bed, like throwing money in the air, jumping and saying, money is good, money is fun, like we are happy, and money, we love money and money loves us. These are like things that she would say, and her dad would create these environments, even though he didn't have a lot of money. But it was creating like an emotional connection with money, that money is a good thing. People with money aren't evil. People with money aren't bad. Maybe some people are, but it doesn't mean you have to be. And it can feel good with it. So she always had a healthy relationship with it. She started making money when she was younger. She was in her late teens. She was doing TV and movies. And she's like, she went to seminars. She went to like Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminars 20 years ago.
That's wild.
And she was like studying books and learning. And I think that mindset of like, I'm going to keep learning and I'm going to have a healthy relationship with it. And it doesn't have power over me. It's, for her, I think that's rare in women, because a lot of women I haven't met that do that. I think a lot of women have been, maybe it's shifted now in the girl boss era, but I think a lot of women maybe just haven't been as invested in learning and invested in investing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know Chris Powell. Do you know him? He was on Iced Coffee Hour recently. Okay. But I just had him on yesterday, and he was like, I've been trying to get women for years to invest. And it's been like pulling teeth trying to get people to just invest $10 a month in the stock market. And so he's like, it's been so hard to get women to invest. And I'm not sure why that is. But maybe you see it differently with your community because you're attracting women who want to do what you do.
Well, I have found that, if you're a woman out there talking about money consistently, it's a little, some people can perceive it as gauche or...
Gauche? What
like,
is this?
It's just like...
Trad wife?
Exactly.
It's just another term that I don't know.
I wish. Like a little showy, not in good taste.
Yeah.
And I have found, what's interesting, actually, Louis? I can quantify this. In our group, at first, they wanted a separate group in our business buying community for the women. They wanted a separate channel, basically, in our Slack. And we have these different channels about different types of deals and industries and sectors. And they were like, we want a women business buying thing. And my immediate reaction was, no.
Why?
No. Like, your vagina, my vagina have nothing to do with whether you can buy a business or not.
Exactly.
Totally unrelated. But then I talked to a few of them, and that made a few mad. And so they talked to me about it, and I can sometimes be brash. So I was like, well, let me hear you. Let's talk to me through this.
What'd they say?
That they were embarrassed. They were embarrassed about some of the questions that they had. They had shame about the size of the deals they had versus the other guys. They were scared about how they negotiated versus others.
And this is the thing. When we are living in fear, shame, or guilt around these things, we are limiting our power and our ability to make decisions. Or we have to hide in different types of groups and say, I'm only going to talk to these people. Yep. That means money or these deals or the flow of money has some type of power over you because you are ashamed to talk about it to other people. Yep. This is not a right or wrong, good or bad conversation. This is is that supporting and serving your life? Do you feel free when you have to hide yourself and have conversations in limited groups versus with anyone? Yep. And that's why in the beginning of the conversation, I was saying, start having conversations with everyone around money. You don't have to reveal what's in your bank account day one, but start just, hey, what's your thoughts on money? What do you think about when money comes to you? Or do you ever think about investing? If so, what do you think about it? What's your process look like? Yep. Just having some general conversations and feeling more safe in those conversations with girlfriends, with guy friends, with colleagues, whatever it might be, so you are in power. not feeling like it has power over you.
It's just so necessary, because with those women, what I eventually said was, instead of doing that, can I push you guys to have this conversation in the main group?
Yeah.
And I will lead it. I'll lead it off. I'll tell some embarrassing things about me first, because you are self-limiting by going to this group, because the average net worth of the woman in our group is lower than the men. You guys also are doing slightly smaller deals than the guys on average. So if you pull yourselves over here into a group of people that have less money, that do smaller deals, what are you replicating? Well, now you're in a group that's smaller, when the whole point of you being in here is for you to be in a group of other winners. And so we eventually sort of compromised on this idea. And I said, listen, if anybody's rude to you, if anything negative happens, like you ping me direct and I will make sure that I handle it. But can I please push you slightly to go bigger?
Yeah, and I'm all for people like, being in safe environments and having safe settings when they're talking about something that's vulnerable for you. I'm not saying you have to do this right away with billionaires, because you're not going to know what they know.
Right.
But I think is also a process of, that's why it is important to read books or watch your show and get mentorship and be in these types of groups, because it's going to expose you to feeling more comfortable over time. And I wasn't comfortable within my first year of learning stuff. It still takes time, but I'm also now comfortable knowing that I don't know a lot. And when you think you've learned a lot about money, you actually realize you don't know that much at all still. There's like different levels. You're like, what are these people doing? I don't know what this terminology is. I'm still a beginner, it seems like. But I'm okay that I'm a beginner, and I'm okay to say, well, this is where I'm at. And if that's embarrassing to me, then it doesn't matter as much anymore. And I think learning to be okay with who I am, with where I'm at, no matter what environment or setting I'm in, is power. And it's having that courage that makes you feel more empowered as well.
Yeah, and the only embarrassing way that you can do this is by trying to pretend you're something you're not.
Exactly.
Because then people can see.
Exactly.
But if you're pretty candid about the fact that, yeah, man, I'm not making as much as I want to, and I know you guys have 7 figures over here, I'm working on my first 5. I'd love to hear more about what you would do if you only had 5.
Yeah.
People are like, great,
Let me help
that's
you.
raw.
Yeah, and they want to help you when you're real and raw about where you're at. The right people will be inspired by your vulnerability and say, hey, if you ever want to talk about it, let me know. I'm happy to support you getting here. Here's some things I would do that I would avoid. And if they're not encouraging, get out of those communities and groups.
Great point.
Find people in other groups that are more supportive and safe.
I am so glad you came on today, Lewis Howes. Make Money Easy. I can't wait to see everybody tag us in their videos of their money personality and relationship. And I'm really excited to pass on this book. I think this is the missing piece that I didn't have, where, before you go buy a business, make sure you understand how your relationship with money is. So I'm going to plug it right in.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank you.
for being here.
I don't want people to sabotage the deals they make because they feel unworthy or insecure, or they feel like, oh, now that this is happening, I'm in a breakdown. What do I do? And let me retreat because emotionally I don't feel safe. So the goal is not to retreat. It's to say, how can I go through this challenge and adversity within my business and expand and overcome it, not retreat.
Make Money Easy. Go buy the book everywhere books are bought. Follow Lewis Howes on all the varying sites, but my favorite is School of Greatness on YouTube and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Lewis, you're the man. Thanks for being here. You guys, tell me if you felt the same way that I felt about this episode. Was this as useful and insane as I thought it was? I hope that hundreds of thousands of you are watching this on YouTube, and I know that hundreds of thousands of you are listening to it just about everywhere. If you found this impactful, do me a solid. Tag me on Instagram and let me know that you are about to get that money because of this episode. I want to see all the stories about you out there making money and making impact, because you are a big deal to me. Until next time. Hey guys, if you've ever thought about buying a business, we've built what I think is the best acquisitions and business buying community and education curriculum in the world. If you've ever thought about wanting to buy or own a business, or if you want to add more businesses to the mix, it's called the Contrarian Community. And what this is the goal is we give you the 3 things that the best business buyers use: your own advisory team, your own investment committee, and a deal team. We get together each week to review deals live and beat up all the deals that you're currently looking at while you simultaneously learn the best way possible, which is called modeling, by seeing other people put together deals. This is how private equity buys businesses. This is how investment teams work. And we're stealing the methods from Wall Street and giving them to you. If this is interesting to you, go to click the link and you can actually talk to my team direct about if this is a fit or not. We can help guide you. The link is in the show description.